Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. The show is about to begin.
Presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon. Joined as always by my wildly handsome co-host, John Luke Garofalo. Our friend Coop with us, aka Coop A. Fiasco. What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-host, Andrew Cooper. What's up, Coop?
Hello.
Oh, feeling a little British today, are we?
Hello, lovely. It's a lovely day in Florida.
I just started doing that voice to my girlfriend the other day. Like, I forget, but it was like, please, ma'am, may I go rock climbing? Like she said something to me, she gave me permission for something I felt like I didn't need permission for. And then that voice stuck for like an hour.
Oh, yeah. After I get off the show, I'll double confuse my wife because I'll be talking about football in that voice. And she doesn't even care about football either. I'll be like, how you feel about Dalton Shout?
That might make it more interesting for her to hear you talk about football. Like, at least she's got something else to focus on. It's like when your stomach hurts and you stub your toe and you're not thinking about your stomach anymore.
Yeah, you kind of deflect from my annoyingness by only focusing on one part of it instead of all of it as a whole.
She usually tells her friends, God, he's so annoying. He never shuts up about football. And now she says, God, he's so annoying. He always talks in a British accent.
Talks in a British accent about toilet Igby.
And now 1 year from now, stop the British accent when talking about football, and she's going to be thrilled.
Exactly, dude. You got we talked about it yesterday. Sometimes you got to move the goalposts. We talked about it with our Uber food app. Like, if you just create the fight app, the Tinder for people who want to fight, then now the one where people share lasagna is a little more acceptable. You have to move the goalposts. It's an important part of inventing things, really.
Important marriage tip.
Yeah,
move the goalposts.
Move the goalposts. Be so annoying when you have the opportunity that it makes you just a little more tolerable when you're being normal.
100%. We got some people in the chat ready for today's show. Craig in here said, good morning to my favorite Thursdays. Good morning, Craig. Thanks for coming in, my friend. How you doing today?
Craigster.
We got Tommy over here with a good morning rhyme for us. What's up, Tommy? Tommy said, good morning, my friends. It is a slow day of sports as I look for a rhyme on my phone in my shorts. In the valley of the sun has gone down. KD twists his ankle with no one around. The Knicks winning streak has stopped at 9. Oh, well, New York, at least you got Danny Dime. I have waited for a QB. I have waited so long. So I thought today I would leave with a song. Aware has my quarterback on. Aware can he be? We need someone to throw the ball.
Just please don't
be Jimmy G.
He actually wrote all together in the comments. He wanted us all to sing that part together, which we tried.
Tommy's poem is now adding stage instructions. It's going to be like exit left and in parentheses, Simon whispers, JL screams, Coop talks in normal voice, or like little emotions like seductively.
Yeah, Tommy, we got to work on it. That was the first time you gave us stage instructions to sing it at the same time, which we know we didn't do well. We were here for that. But he says, most out of sync ever. And we'll work on it. It used to come in and do one rhyme. Like, it would be maybe at 8 words. Now we got it's basically a play we're putting on here. So we're doing our best, Tommy.
We're doing our best. We got JL in the chat with the oi.
Hey, oi, hey.
And that tells you everything you need to know about what he's doing. It is an oi kind of morning over there for JL. While we're waiting for JL, it's probably that time of morning, Coop. We got to crack out our breakfast, crack out something to eat. Everybody watching, I hope you brought something because we've got the news, we got the stories. You just have to bring your own breakfast.
BYOB, baby.
And I kind of wanted to kick us off with something a little bit different than we usually talk about today. It's not necessarily news, but there was a Reddit thread yesterday that I had so much fun scrolling through. And it was a look back on the Russell Wilson trade from a year ago. So somebody linked to the Russell Wilson trade thread whenever he was traded to the Broncos. That was official, and all of the things that people were saying about it. And I just want to read some of the comments in here. Where is this top one that I found? Okay, so one of the comments.
I got the thread right here. This is an interesting one right here. And we thought the Rodgers news was big, which is, of course, still relevant today. Rodgers stays in the headline. But, yeah, we thought that the Aaron Rodgers contract was the big news, and the Russell Wilson came in with the mega trade.
This is the one that I found. It was Russell Wilson seems like the kind of guy who would borrow your wheelbarrow and then return it with a fresh coat of paint and a plate of his wife's brownies, which is nice. But then he sort of passive-aggressively chides you for letting it rust to begin with. And you're like, it's my effing wheelbarrow, man. And he's like, that's fine, brother. Be blessed and go with God.
Dude, people on Reddit are the best, bro. Because not only did they write that before all of last year happened, like, not only did they write that in general, they wrote that before all this stuff happened. And then that's exactly kind of how his tenure has gone so far. Like, the people there are just not responding to his, like, corny hokiness. That is such a perfect comment.
It's beautiful. The guy who commented it came back, like he was summoned into the thread, came back and made another one. He said, Russ really is that dude. He's the kind of guy who sees your buddy park his truck out front of your place on Sunday. So he comes to knock on your door like, hey, neighbor, the homeowners association says we aren't allowed to park guest vehicles along the curb on weekends. And you're like, dude, come on, you aren't even in the HOA. And Russ is like, don't worry about it, brother. I've got plenty of space in my driveway for that big old Nissan Titan. Heck, I'll even move it for him. Where are those keys at? And then he does a little pose like he's waiting for a snap.
Dude, this thread is amazing. Somebody said, does Russ know that when he cooks at a higher altitude, he needs to adjust the temperature? It's okay. Now we know exactly what happened. That's the person commenting on it. He didn't adjust his cook temps.
It's incredible,
man.
No, and then if you spend some more time scrolling through that, you'll find one or two Broncos fans under every single comment saying it's a bad trade, just saying like, "Oh, you're salty. You're salty. Get over it. Grow up." Yeah. It's a beautiful thread. What's up, John Luke?
Boy,
Jay out.
My boys.
What up, dog?
What up?
Yeah, Reddit's so much fun. So I popped over there actually yesterday, and Craig is alluding to there, and I just we have a great guest coming on later on the show, Brandon Huffman, professional scout. So I popped over to Reddit and I asked them to, if they want to come by and ask questions. And I said, if you don't have time to come by, drop some questions in the chat and maybe we can mix them in. There's definitely a ton of great questions came in, and a couple of them very insightful that hopefully we're going to have a chance to ask them. So Reddit, bring in the heat. They also obviously, as usual, asked a bunch of super weird questions. So maybe we'll ask some of those too. But Reddit helping out with us with our special guest today.
Thanks, Reddit.
Thanks, guys. I usually do, like, if there's something I need to know the answer of and it's a definitive fact, I just type it into Google. But if it's something that you need a little bit of opinion on, I just throw the word Reddit on the end there. What's the best flashlight? Reddit. That's how you get answers.
I was thinking about this 2 days ago. I know this isn't a news topic or anything, but where the heck do you get good reviews about stuff? Because I can't figure out where the good products are.
It's an infuriating thing now because
Amazon is garbage.
Well, and if you Google
Reddit, dude.
If you Google like best mattress or something along those lines, you're going to get 45 AI written or fully ad sponsored articles on Google.
Right.
Like you can't find them.
All the clickbait.
You can't find the real ones because it's prioritizing like the shit that's just pumping it full of SEO words to get it to the top about mattresses.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's exactly what Coop said. I will type in best mattress Reddit on Google. Like,
is that the trick?
I will go into 20 different Reddit threads. You can find 20 or 30 of them. You have to aggregate the information because it's from all over the place, but that is how you get like people's genuine opinions because they're going to be nasty on Reddit if they don't like it.
Jay, I just did what I said. So I said, what's the best mattress Reddit, which brought me to the subreddit that's specifically for mattresses. And then that links to an AMA for a guy that went into, this is done within the last year. He said, I am a professional mattress tester. In the last 6 years, I've tested 187 different mattresses, including Purple, Tempur-Pedic, Nectar, Sattva, Wink Beds, Beauty Rest, Ghost Bed, and more. Ask me any questions you want right now. So this guy, so that's how you just skip right past the opinions of actual people and skip right to
the bots on Reddit.
Yeah. And the number one question is, what mattress do you sleep on every night? And his answer is a Loam and Leaf luxury firm. So there you go. Professional mattress tester sleeps on a Loam and Leaf. We're not sponsored by them, but we got the answers from it. So Jill, that's the secret these days.
That's
good to
thinking
know.
what Tommy's thinking. What a job. Maybe
I know.
Maybe I could be like the insomnia mattress tester. Like if I sleep on it, like it's just a binary thing. Did I sleep well or not? And it's probably more related to my mental health, but on good mental health days, those mattresses are going to get good reviews.
I wonder if this guy is like filming himself sleep on these mattresses too, to go back and watch the tape and see.
No, but if you do go to his review website, so I've been to this guy. He runs, I believe it's called Sleepopolis, if I'm not mistaken. His website.
You're familiar with this guy.
I've read this entire thread. Yeah, I've read this entire thread from beginning to end that you brought up, Coop. I am deeply familiar, but on his review website, he's got a bunch of different categories. And something that his review website does that others that I've seen haven't is he gives the mattresses a sex score. And whenever he's asked about it, he's like, how are you going to rate mattresses without telling people how good it is for sex? He goes, that's one of like its 3 primary purposes, like for most adults. So like people are just leaving out a huge portion of their reviews if they don't put that in there. And I was like, you're a smart man.
This dude is just flexing on everybody. The Reddit's going to have to ask, what's the best mattress for somebody who's having 0 sex?
They just take out the sex score entirely for Reddit.
For Reddit, yeah, they're like that carries no weight. They're like, that's effective. What's the best mattress? Which mattress absorbs the least amount of Cheeto dust? Like that would be a good question for Reddit. Which I don't know the answer to. It might be a Loam and Leaf. It could be a Tempur-Pedic.
Dude, Tufted Needle. So that's where it's at.
Love
my Tufted Needle mattress. Yep.
You got a T&N?
Yeah, that's what they call it.
That's the thing is when you go on these like specific niche subs, it actually becomes very hard to just jump in because everyone's there is talking about things every single day and they've already boiled everything down to acronyms. Like you go on the Watch subreddit, they're like, yeah, my TS05 250 Z, and I'm just like, can you break that out for me? I need like a glossary.
Did you guys see the letter from Calvin Ridley? Simon, you brought this up to me yesterday.
Yeah, I read that yesterday. It was pretty cool stuff. Not cool in like the things he was struggling with, but it's just nice to see the trend of players being more open about their mental health. There was a stigma against men kind of showing this as it was viewed as weakness. And then it's a hyper masculine sport. Football is. So it made that stigma probably even stronger. These are the toughest guys in the world out there. Right. The dude's like, I was in a dark place, and it's right now, like I've been in darker spots and it was really helpful. I remember seeing like a YouTuber that I loved. It sounds silly, but he came out and said, hey guys, like I haven't posted videos in a couple months. This is what I've been struggling with. And it was like, oh shoot, like someone else is feeling this. So I imagine this isn't just him letting people know like, hey, like it's an excuse, like I like other stuff was wrong. That's why it happened. He's sharing his story in hopes that it connects with someone.
Right. And his story that does sound like a familiar one where just like you get down, and especially when for like, I think a lot of people don't realize this. I mean, and I can't relate in full, but recently I hurt my back. I talked to you guys about that. And like, you get really down when you can't do the things you want to do. Like, you know, and for me, it was literally just like tweaking my back for a couple of days. There are people out there that spend a long time, you know, on disability, being disabled. And you can see it with really talking about that when he's like, I had surgery. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't be with my teammates. He's like, I was just bored looking for something to do. I downloaded this betting app that I saw on TV. I was betting on NBA games, and I threw in the Falcons on a parlay to root for my buddies because I couldn't. He's like, I wasn't even talking to them. I didn't have any inside info. It was a NBA parlay that he threw the Falcons in on, and he's like, I bet on them to win. So, you know, that story is relatable, but at the same time, he's got to know that he can't bet on the Falcons, right? So
And he does. He said, I effed up. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. In 2021, I
Exactly.
made the worst mistake of my life by gambling on football. And I
Exactly.
feel like hopefully like this whole Calvin Ridley situation is a lesson in humility to the NFL, the teams, the fans, right? Because, this is a very serious situation, and one in which, Calvin Ridley, Calvin Ridley has gone through a ton in his life, and mental health is not understood in this country or in this world, really. So,
Yeah.
I hope that Calvin Ridley becomes just a light story, a triumph story, that he comes back from this. And Simon, what was the line that
I
you said
just
stuck
pulled
out
it
to you
up.
yesterday?
I have it at the end. So he does talk about some pretty hard stuff that he went through, but he does end it optimistically. He talks about being in a good spot, and right at the end, he says, "Right now, I feel stronger than I've ever felt, mentally and physically. On the field, I'm flying. Believe me, I'm flying. That GPS band don't lie. On my daughter's name, if I'm healthy with Trevor Lawrence, I'm giving Jacksonville 1,400 yards a season, period."
Oh yeah.
He said, "On my daughter's name, if I'm healthy with Trevor Lawrence, that's 1,400 easy a year."
Yeah. Not to mention,
That's a number, bro. Like he could have gone
He could have said
1,200,
1,000, and I would have been like, "Oh hell yeah, man!"
yeah.
but 1,400 has some kick to it.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. Because I read these stories, and from the emotional aspect, I obviously enjoy them. But I also am a fantasy gamer, so I'm reading through this, and I'm like, wait a second, he had 1,700 yards and a foot he needed surgery on. That sounds like a healthy Calvin Ridley is gonna be wheels up. So I'm in, man. I'm loving it, dude. But definitely, everyone should give that a read, especially Jaguars and Falcons fans, right? Get some perspective on this player, why he left your team, why he's on a new team, and just try and have a little respect. And to your point, guys like Darren Waller and Chris Carter, their struggles, which were like if you think about Darren Waller, his struggles were a lot worse than what Calvin Ridley kind of went through. Like that's
You
now
gotta
just
compare them.
you don't kind of compare, but now that's just still for all of them. That's just a small part. Like Carter and Darren Waller, their struggles, that's now a small part of their story, and the success is the big part. So hoping Calvin Ridley can do the same thing.
There's a whole the number of people I meet that like just love Darren Waller, but their first introduction to him was as a Raider in that breakout season was really high. Like you're right. You can keep going, and this is the next step in Calvin Ridley's NFL adventure.
We're rooting for it. We're rooting for it.
Yeah.
I had a funny quote about Aaron Rodgers yesterday. It came from a tweet, and the first time I read the tweet, I was so confused. It was from Aaron Nagler, and he just used a lot of names with no context, but it is a funny story. So first I'm going to read you the tweet, and then I'm going to reread it in the easy to understand way.
Okay.
So Aaron Nagler said, "Fun story. Rodgers was so pissed that McCarthy let Van Pelt walk. He refused to speak to Cignetti, who for much of the year had to relay anything he wanted to say to Rodgers through Boyle. Good times." Which sounds like just some straight up middle school drama, but it is. Aaron Rodgers was so pissed that head coach Mike McCarthy let quarterbacks coach Alex Van Pelt leave that he refused to speak to Van Pelt's replacement as quarterbacks coach, Frank Cignetti Jr. So Cignetti Jr. had to spend much of the year relaying anything he wanted to say to Rodgers through third string quarterback Tim Boyle.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Were they like in the same room?
In the same room. Tim, tell Aaron he needs to keep his elbow up on throws to the flat. And Tim turns, he's like, Aaron, and Roger's like, I heard him. That would be the best, dude. He's just sitting there like this, like not looking over at the quarterback. That is so childish and amazing. I really do love that.
The line you just said, I heard him, I can just see Rodgers screaming in the locker room.
Yeah. Speaking of I heard him, I see NKC Rules in the chat with a big, strong good morning there.
Good morning,
as well
NKC.
As Albert in the chat too. Good morning, everybody. Good morning,
Albert. Good morning,
What's
Albert.
up, dude?
What up, guys? Well, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, that's not the only negative news coming out about him. It seems like the Packers are ready to move on to Jordan Love from the reports coming out. They're saying they're not even that interested in keeping Rodgers on the team. In a perfect world, he'd retire or leave. And this was from Mike Garofalo. He said that the Packers aren't asking for an offer they can't refuse from the Jets for quarterback Aaron Rodgers. They said, let's get as fair of compensation as we can to just move on and turn this thing over to Jordan Love.
Yeah, dude, that's literally
Dang.
like what I said to my wife about like all the wedding decoration stuff. She's like, I'm gonna sell it online. I'm like, just get it out of here. I'm like, whatever, if somebody will take it. Like the way he describes what they're doing with Rodgers is like how you get rid of something on eBay, right? You're like, let's just get something for it so we can get it out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't
If
think
you-
that's a bad move though. Maybe they try and get some compensation to get a quarterback. I just have a hard time believing they're gonna put their trust in Jordan Love.
It sounds like they want to move on from Aaron Rodgers. I think this is going to be a situation where maybe the Jets take on a bit more of that contract, a bit more of the financial obligation to prevent or to avoid sending higher draft picks. Because I don't see the Jets sending their first round pick this year for like an old Aaron Rodgers, for like a late 30s Aaron Rodgers. So what, like a second and a third, maybe one this year, one next year, plus taking on some of that contract would get it done.
Yeah, so it's a tough balance. We've seen both things happen. The thing is, the Jets, if they go for Aaron Rodgers, they immediately flip from this rebuild into competing right now. So I wonder
I feel like they've already flipped. It feels like they're the team that's done it right, and now they are truly a quarterback away.
So in that case, I actually think they might want to consider the other way, where they might be willing to give up more future picks to keep the money now. We've seen that before with the Texans. The Texans thought they were competing when they traded Brock Osweiler, and they actually gave up a pick with Brock Osweiler for the Browns to take on that contract so that they would have more money to spend for when they thought they were actually competing. I wonder if the Jets might go the other way, where they want the money now, because it's just much easier to acquire impact players with money than it is with draft picks. So I wonder if, Simon, maybe they go to the Packers and say, hey, you got Jordan Love now, you're rebuilding. Why don't you keep some of that dead cap, and we'll give you some of these future picks, 2024 picks that are going to be less impactful now while they're trying to get it done.
The best part about that Brock Osweiler trade was that both teams lost. The Browns wasted the draft pick surely and got Brock Osweiler, and the Texans just threw a draft pick out the window. That draft pick probably did the same for both franchises, even though the Browns took it.
Right. Yeah. That was crazy. That's like, yeah, that type of trade is well beyond the you can have it if you just come get it for free. Right. You come get this old dishwasher, you can have it. Like, that was more like, we're going to pay a junk removal company to come and take this.
Yeah, you took your classified ad on Craigslist and moved it to the gigs and jobs section just with $50 added.
Yeah, exactly.
It was free gravel, and now it's $50 to take this freaking gravel.
Yeah. They rented a dumpster with that trade, but yeah, that's very interesting. Now, on another quarterback news that I think this news might need to finalize itself before we see what happens with Rodgers. I saw some rumors coming from Matthew Berry that he seems, not 100% confident, but he seems pretty confident that Washington is in the mix to get Lamar Jackson. We've seen basically a lot of smoke from the Falcons, and then now, honestly, the most notable name in our industry, if you consider our industry fantasy football, Matthew Berry is the guy, and he's transcended to the point where he's on the actual broadcast now as a fantasy football guy. So when he says something, especially that impacts us in fantasy football, I listen. Do you think that it's a real possibility that Lamar ends up in Washington?
Absolutely. Like you said, I mean, Matthew Berry is as credible as it gets. So if he's going to put something out, I do believe he's put a thought into it, and he's not just throwing things out there. He doesn't need clickbait. So I think there is probably reason to believe the Commanders are in the mix for this. It also it isn't unreasonable. Like, that's not an unreasonable rumor anyway, right? I kind of figured they might at least be in the mix somewhat. Brought up the story a couple days ago about the article I was reading about Commander Dan Snyder giving the finger to the league by drafting or by getting Lamar Jackson. And
that would be
the whole escrow thing.
Trade all the future picks, dude.
Sign him to a $300 million guaranteed contract.
Screw you, Jerry.
See ya.
I wonder.
Jail's mom in the chat saying Lamar in, Snyder out. Heaven. You know what?
Heaven.
As a Commanders fan, they'd probably be pretty happy with that move. Lamar Jackson gets to be your new quarterback and no more Dan Snyder.
I might have to be.
Yeah.
I might have to be a Washington fan again,
Switch back.
Yeah.
or just like bring him in the mix. You know what I mean? Bring him back in the fold.
Yeah, like you're not full Washington, but you'll go Commanders every once in a while.
Yeah, I grew up a Washington fan.
I feel like I'm having similar feelings to the Falcons. Like I didn't grow up a Falcons fan, but I grew up in Atlanta around lots of Falcons fans. Like that's why I want Lamar to go there because I already kind of like cheering for them. And if he goes there, that'll just make it even more fun to cheer for a team that I already like cheering for.
Do it. Screw these stupid norms about teams and fanhood, man. Get out of here.
Leanne asked me yesterday, like, are you a Falcons fan now? And I was like, I mean, like, they're in tier 2. Like, Browns are number 1, but I'm mad at them. So it's like Falcons, Raiders,
fanhood isn't binary.
Jaguars are like, those are the teams right now that I like cheering for.
Yeah.
It is. It's 2023, JL. We all have 100 fantasy football teams. You can root for whoever the hell you want. And I'll tell you this right now. One of our most important metrics on this show, always has been, how good does the player look in the uniform? There's no question.
That's true. I consider that every time.
100%.
There's no question Lamar Jackson's going to look way better in that Falcons, especially the old dirty.
I thought you were about to say
Falcons.
Washington, and I was about to just tear you apart and just be like, you ugly.
Yeah. The thing is, though, there are players that there are. Would you go be ugly-eyed?
Ugly-eyed goofball.
You ugly-eyed goofball. How dare you? No, but there are.
Recovering from that one, Coop.
Yeah, devastated.
I got smoked, man. I got to close my ugly eyes. Well, you said only one, so like, which one is it? Right?
Good luck.
Yeah,
I got to figure it out. I'll figure it out. Just
we all know. You don't know.
Everyone in the chat's like, oh, we know.
Oh,
It's the right one.
Aaron Rodgers in the corner.
Already.
Damn, it's the right one.
Somebody asked Tim Boyle. Yeah. But the thing is, I think there are players that would look better. And it's not just that their uniforms are just straight up always better. I think there could be players that look better in Washington's uniform. But Lamar Jackson, he just feels like a dirty bird, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what quarterback currently in the league.
Andy Dalton.
In a Washington jersey.
Andy Dalton looks about right in a Washington jersey.
Yeah, or somebody.
Jones.
The command, they are kind of regal. Yeah.
For some reason, I can see Kyler Murray in a Washington jersey so clearly in my head.
Really? I can't.
I can just like picture him walking in. And
I got the answer. It's Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Only if Dan Snyder's still there. I want to see them
perfectly.
have a.
I can even. Well, they do have the W on the helmet, which would look cool if you are Zach Wilson.
W for.
Maybe that's where he's going to have his bounce back. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to happen. Now that I said it, I just feel it in there. Tim in the chat says, "Yep."
Yep, there it is.
you let him know.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks coach Tim. Simon is gone, but that's okay. We will move on. He'll be back.
Yeah.
Coop, did you see the man, the myth, the legend, Chosen Anderson was cut by the Cardinals yesterday? Saved $12 million on their cap space. How do you feel about that one?
I mean, the thing with guys, and in our minds, I think we feel a lot of times guys like that get traded and then they get cut. It's the end of the world, or then that's a bad trade. But the reality of the way the contracts are set up is if you do get traded, none of the guaranteed money goes with you. Same with like if you get claimed off waivers. So when you're going through your roster and you're saying, where can we save money? Robbie Anderson is a $12 million cap hit with $12 million savings with zero dead cap. So those guys you trade for are always at the very top of the list. Like you look at Will Disley versus Noah Fant. Will Disley's being paid more money than Noah Fant, but Noah Fant's entire contract can be cut because he got traded. So, with Robbie Anderson, it's a tough one because
Chosen Anderson now.
With Chosen Anderson, we've seen a number of instances that have led us to believe that maybe this guy might not be all there. The top of the list being the whole incident with the cop. I'm not going to say exactly what he said on the show, but look, type in something into Google like Robbie Anderson spits on cop. Or
Definitely don't need to do that.
Yeah, but if you do that, then you'll see some of the character issues he might be dealing with here. But I don't know. Do you think he gets another shot, Chael, or do you think this is it for Mr. Chosen?
I think he gets a shot. I think he's a good wide receiver. I think he can be a valuable asset on a lot of different franchises in this league that could use a player like him.
Robbie Anderson would have been the best wide receiver on the Ravens last year.
Is that a ghost?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. The thing is, you have to be confident that your organization can take on big characters like that, guys with big personalities, guys willing to change their first name to their Twitter handle. You know?
Yeah. And I guess in a related note to this, yesterday, Ian Rappaport tweeted out, DeAndre Hopkins admitted on the Pat McAfee show that he's been hearing a lot of trade talks on that subject. My understanding is that if a trade did happen, he'd be flexible on the last 2 years of his contract rather than shoot for a top of market deal.
He wants a Super Bowl. He wants a freaking Super Bowl. He said, I played for the Texans for long enough. I played for Cliff Kingsbury. Forget it. Like if a Super Bowl contender wants me, let's get creative with my contract and let's win a bowl.
Yeah, that's the problem that I have. Every Patriots fan is like DeAndre Hopkins coming to the Pats, and my response is always, why? Why would he? Why would he want to come to Patriots?
To play with Mac Jones, to win a Super Bowl,
to play with Bill Belichick, if anything. But yeah, I don't think that's the Patriots. I don't think are DeAndre Hopkins away from winning.
Nah, no, there may be two DeAndre Hopkins away from winning.
One of them plays quarterback.
Joe, where do you think? Where do you think he ends up? What's a team that he could fit on?
It's a good question. Jets.
Bring Aaron Rodgers and DeAndre Hopkins to pair with Garrett Wilson.
And you keep Elijah Moore. So in that instance, DeAndre Hopkins does the same things as Corey Davis. He's a bigger body outside wide receiver. So he would take the split end role from Corey Davis, and you would have Garrett Wilson as a full-time flanker, and Elijah Moore would play slot in 3 wide receiver sets, but probably come off the field for jumbo goal line type sets. I think that's because I think Corey Davis is a good player. I don't think they necessarily need to do that move, but you can't really compare Corey Davis to DeAndre Hopkins, right?
Man, Corey Davis, that dude's value just fell off.
Yeah, I think
there was a time where he was a dynasty darling.
I know. Yeah, he got picked 4th overall in the NFL draft, right?
Yeah,
the actual draft. When I look at Corey Davis, the thing is, like, if they cut him, they're gonna have. I think they have him under contract for just like $10 million this year. It's like if you cut that guy and save that money, who do you sign to play split end? That's gonna be better, like Alan Lazard, DJ Chark. It's not clear cut that those guys are even that much better than Corey Davis, are they? Corey Davis is at least a very good run blocker. Routinely grades out at top 10 in the league per Pro Football Focus, and he put up some okay numbers. I don't think Corey Davis is all that bad. To be honest,
if you said I'm going to punch you in the stomach if you don't identify which of these players is objectively better, I would say Alan Lazard is probably better than Corey Davis, but you would have to threaten me to get me to make a decision.
So put it that way. They're in the same tier, is what you're saying.
That's another way to say what I just said. They're in the same tier.
Yeah, you had to, but I like the way you said it. Is that it's that close that you have to threaten me with violence for me to dig deep enough on that. I mean,
that's what I'm going to say. They're in the same tier from now on. Anytime somebody asks me like a fantasy trade question,
if you threatened me with violence, I would choose this guy. But I mean, Corey Davis had a good season in 2020, but never really cracked 1,000 yards. He's kind of on the Devontae Parker trajectory, just kind of.
And then giving us some late career hope as well, like Devontae Parker, like nothing. Everyone gives up, and then on a new team gives us a little bit of hope, gives us a little bit of something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Like it's like that meme from Arrested Development where it's like, did it work for those people? No, it never does. But maybe it will for us.
Never watched that show, but I've heard so many quotes from it that I feel like I need to. We got some people in the chat. Tim over here said, just please not the Bills for DeAndre Hopkins. And then he said, AFC East has too many good players already. What's up, Tim? Good morning, my friend. And Dustin said, morning, everyone. Good morning, Dustin. Morning, Dustin.
There's a lot of moves that could potentially happen that would make me want the Patriots to just like go into a full-on like 2-year rebuild mode. Like if the Bills get the wide receiver to go opposite Diggs and the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, the Patriots should just dig a hole in the ground and bury themselves for the next like 2 years and collect draft picks,
And they'll be like, hey, Dolphins, come on. And Tua will be like, no, I'm good. I think I'm going to play with those guys.
Exactly, dude. It's like,
how's it feel down there, loser? Like that, the rest of that division is so ready to just pile on the Patriots.
Yeah, and the Patriots deserve it too. So I think fans are ready.
This
for
is
that.
just like a full overcorrection from like a long period of time.
The school bull breaks both of their legs all of a sudden, and you're just like, oh man, here we go.
This is the 10-year reunion, right? Where my Patriots are showing up, and they're still like wearing their high school Letterman jacket, but now everybody else is like a scientist, right?
Everyone's
like
a billionaire.
Yeah, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble when I'm like a Patriots fan and a bit of Homer at times, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, we deserve this. I'm like, it's our turn to be on the bottom.
Like, I'll take my 6 Super Bowls and I'll go cry over there while you're very mean to me.
We had the parades, but the thing is, the way the league is set up is this is supposed to happen, right? Like you're not supposed to be able to have sustained success. It's built that way, right? Like they give these teams comp picks when they lose players. They make the top when some people might not realize when they make the schedule. If you finish first in your division, you play the other 3 teams from your conference that finish first. So if the Patriots, Chiefs, Colts, and the Steelers all finish first, they all play each other. And if you all finish 4th in your division, then next year you all play each other. So it really is set up to help teams flip from top to bottom. So it's about time the Patriots flip to the bottom.
Yeah, about damn time.
About damn time. And they're probably going to win the division just because Belichick is just an animal.
I had something really important I was going to say there. It was so important. You guys were going to be like, man, that's important.
Oh, I can imagine.
Now it's gone.
I'm imagining how great it is. Was it about football?
Jail is muted.
You got me with that one. It's just so important. You guys are going to say, man, that's important.
Tell it to Tim Boyle and have him tell us.
We were talking about
Patriots, the Bills, Jets being really
people
good.
being mean to them, and about school bullies, and about the high school reunion, and it's gone forever. Damn, man, that was really going to be a treat for everyone else.
Can we pick someone to bully and make Tim like we only speak to them through our Tim?
Oh, that'd be excellent. How about NKC?
How about Alton Brown?
Real person.
That's a real person from Good Eats.
No, but like real, like in the chat.
Oh, I thought we were
like Jay. Like we don't talk to Jay except through Tim.
That'd be a funny one.
I think that's a good one.
What if we make it Keith, the producer of our show?
We only talk to him through Earn Dog and Hot Pasta. I think we got Hot Pasta on the in the producer chair today, I believe. Is that true?
Yep, Hot Pasta. He came in early, someone came in and said, "Morning, Tony." If it is Tony,
now I know it's Tony because he said "gondola" in the chat. Good morning, hot tea. Gondola.
I don't even remember the origin of that. I just remember you guys saying it.
I think I was the one that told that story. I don't remember what it was, but
you can get married on a gondola in Vegas. They got multiple different wedding ceremonies that you can do on the gondola at the Venetian.
Wow.
I was looking up all the different wedding ceremonies in Vegas because I was curious about the stereotypes that you can just like walk up and have Elvis marry you in 4 minutes. It's a little bit more complex than that usually.
That's the one I always picture. Some like seedy motel with an Elvis impersonator doing the marriage. That's the classic.
The best one is the drive-through. They have a drive-through wedding chapel that you can get.
The Taco Bell one?
I know that's just a Taco Bell with an
Oh.
upstairs area that you can rent out for your wedding.
But no drive-through?
This is not like a drive-through fast food. They're not like giving you like, yeah, you want any Diablo sauce with that marriage? It's just like all they do at the drive-through is weddings.
That's
pretty
tight.
cool.
I like that. I got getting back to some football. I have a very interesting quote from Kevin Stefanski, who is the head coach for the Cleveland Browns, known as one of the most run-heavy coaches in the league. Uses more 3 tight end sets than most teams use 2 tight end sets, but he uses a ton of both 2 and 3 tight ends. Guy loves tight ends. He loves running the ball. But this was some interesting quotes from him on running. He goes, somebody asked him, you're not going to establish the run first? Question mark. With Stefanski talking about Deshaun Watson and passing the football. And Stefanski said, that's a fallacy. You don't need to establish the run to throw it. Play action, it's been proven that you don't need to have a good run attack or be running the ball. There's a lot of good data behind that. So it's funny to see one of the most run-heavy coaches in the league pushing back on the narrative that you need to first establish the run to throw the football.
I think where he was really pushing back is if you read more quotes from this interview that he was like, I always think it's great when someone says, oh, X and X team is undefeated when they give so-and-so the ball X number of times. And he's like, yeah, let me give Nick Chubb the ball 24 times to start a game and let's see if we win that one. Like, I think he's going like all these, like you got to look a step further than the numbers. It's not just Nick Chubb touched the ball 24 times, Browns win. I think what he's saying here is like, look, it's more complex than just we have to set up the run to pass the ball. Like there's a lot more going on here. Of course we want to run, but the data says like play action negates some of the effects that establishing the run has on the pass game. So we can make it happen.
And it takes 2 seconds to just think about what a big win looks like. Like running a lot of times is the luxury of the team that's already winning. Like a lot of these games when you're up by 20 points end with you handing it off, to Nick Chubb 10 times. So a lot of times it's a kind of a chicken and the egg thing. Did Nick Chubb get a ton of carries to win the game, or did he get a lot of carries because you were already winning the game?
My favorite thing is whenever you encounter someone who's like more football than analytics, it's like, oh no, I'm all intuition over analytics. It's very clearly I don't know what that is. It's all football. It's like it's just an easy way to explain away simple, just not understanding simple statistics. Because if you actually understood statistics, you wouldn't say, yeah, I'm going to choose the path that's less likely because it feels good.
Or you might, but you would have to acknowledge that you're doing it in spite of the statistics saying that it is the less likely route. That person, Joe, that does that always goes, bah!
Bah!
Yeah, that's one of their favorite phrases.
You just described every baseball radio announcer over 60. That's just like immediately they're like,
Rebel.
XFIP, what are you talking about? I can see a 2-seam right there. They just immediately dismiss all the statistics because they don't want to learn them.
Right. I mean, I'm sure, yeah, and your baseball is a good comp, right? Because I imagine this is like everybody before sabermetrics and everything.
Oh yeah, I have the MLB at bat app, and I'll just throw on games and just kind of listen in the background, and they're 100%. I'm not gonna call anybody out by name, but they're 100% are some dudes that are just like it's like they pair a young announcer with an older one, and the young guy's like trying to share that stuff, and he knows that it drives the other guy nuts. And you'll hear, it's the White Sox, but you'll hear the other announcer be like, "Shut the hell up with that stuff."
Yeah, Terry. I'll call him out by name too.
Shove your numbers up your ass.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, that's fine and all. He hates the shift. He hates like anything, anything that has to do with playing the game by the numbers.
Ridiculous. This is the Browns. The Browns, like him saying that, I think is pretty interesting though. Just because I don't feel like he comes out publicly and talks a lot about the run game and their strategy. Maybe I just missed that, but it's cool to hear his perspective on that.
I think part of it is no one gives a shit about the Browns for the most part. So they're not the Kevin Stefanski isn't in the news all that frequently right now. I've heard him talk a little bit about it, but you're right. This is more in depth than he's gone with some of this stuff publicly in the past, at least that I've seen.
Yeah. Tommy in the chat said futures are out. Saints plus 4,000, Patriots plus 6,000, Browns plus 3,500, and Ravens plus 2,200.
I'll take none of those.
Yeah.
Ooh.
None.
Plus
No.
6,000.
That sounds like here, sportsbook, take my money.
Yeah.
Is that the
Thank you,
voice?
thank you so much for the little paper slip that I can throw away in 8 months
Thank you, FanDuel.
when not a single one of these teams actually makes the playoffs.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
some.
I made that mistake with the I put a bet on the Browns last year to win the AFC championship in the summer. Big mistake.
You're just trying to support your friends. You did a Dolphins one too.
Dolphins,
if I remember
Browns.
correctly. And then you said,
they're-
screw Jay. I'm not betting on the Giants, and Coop can eat my butt because I'm not betting on the
Yes,
Patriots either.
Yeah.
What? Not been on the Patriots. So there's some interesting ones. I was looking at these yesterday. Two of them that interest me are the Washington and Atlanta ones. They're at plus 8,000 right now. What do you think that goes to if they land Lamar Jackson?
Plus 5,000.
Plus 5,000 would be ahead of teams like Pitt, Carolina, New England. It would basically be even with what you can get like the Giants at. Maybe like Giants, Vikings, Raiders are in that range.
Seems reasonable to me.
Why are the Raiders at plus 4,000? They should be like plus 40,000. They don't have a quarterback.
They got Jared Stidham.
Oh, I forgot about Stidham.
Jared
Yeah.
Stidham.
That's worth a Super Bowl.
The Stidham is set up all right to come in with, at least from a receiving core perspective, Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. Like he's got it pretty good as far as coming in as a starting quarterback for the first time.
Yeah. We got to do a futures segment. Maybe we'll do that next week.
We'll do some of that.
Because I'm looking at some of the options here on the FanDuel Sportsbook, and there's some interesting names.
Yeah,
That's
we'll get in
amazing.
there. The timeline, the way they set it up nowadays is amazing for the offseason. Like everything used to happen all at once, and now they've spread it out like perfectly. We get the combine all week. We talk about the combine. On Monday is the legal tampering period, which was supposed to be when players are allowed to start talking to other teams. But what it's turned into is the big major deals all get announced on Monday. So free agency basically opens on Monday, and then we get to talk about free agent deals for a week. By the time we get through that, we're already at the draft. So, I mean, and then once the draft happens, we're already into dynasty, rookie drafts. Then it's best ball season. Then we got
Did they change the schedule?
They have in recent years where they moved the draft back a little
Because
bit.
it feels way more smooth so far this offseason, but I can't tell if that's just my perception of it.
It used to be like combine free agency draft was just like all a big block. And then they kind of spread it out to where it's like now it's the whole spring.
I got you.
Yeah. So it's like you get no downtime. And then it's like with best ball and the Scott Fish Bowl being in like July, we're already pretty much right back into football, fantasy football. So
Sure.
there's no reason to slow this train down, you know?
Tim in the chat, or I'm sorry, Dustin in the chat said, "Morning, everyone." Said Bills get Hopkins and Derrick Henry, but would still need to fix the O-line.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. Derrick Henry on the Bills would be insane.
I don't care if they have an O-line. If they've got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, and Derrick Henry, that'll be the first successful team that doesn't need one.
They could do some formations with only like two linemen, right?
Derrick Henry will do it. They'll just alternate. On pass plays, Derrick Henry stands in the middle and is like, okay, I got this. And then on run plays, he runs. There we go. I just wrote your playbook for you, Buffalo Bills.
Josh Allen like rides piggyback on Derrick Henry as he runs across the field.
The Bengals
Josh Allen's holding the ball.
The Bengals got within shouting distance of winning the Super Bowl without a good O-line. So it's
got to be against the rules, right? Can't carry a teammate.
You cannot. No,
Can you throw a teammate?
absolutely not.
It'd
Otherwise,
be so hard. You can throw like Kyler Murray's the only one you're gonna be able to do that with. Maybe Darren Sproles.
otherwise, if you were allowed to throw teammates, field goals would be way more exciting, right? Like one
Just
team.
started typing in, can you throw I typed the letter T and Google auto-filled it to a teammate in football.
Right?
Maybe
Like,
I've searched this before.
dude.
Or they
you
hurt
could
us.
if you could throw teammates in football, I would have a full-on like cheerleader unit out there, right in the end zone, right in front of the goalpost, and you're just chucking a flyer up there to try and grab that ball. Like that would be amazing.
Tim in the chat said, I mean, giving Nick Chubb the ball 50 times would still probably work.
Probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said futures are the definition of said it and forget about it.
Forget about it. Hey.
Forget about it.
Maybe that's what our forget about it.
That's the name of the future segment.
Yeah. I did that once with a NASCAR bet that I won. I bet on Kyle Busch to win the whole thing, and then he broke both his legs in like the first race of the year. And I was like, oh, I guess that money's gone. And then he like
your legs to drive. Get one of those hand cars.
Apparently not.
You can accelerate with your hands.
He used some like obscure rule to come back later in the season. Then he won the whole thing. I bet $100 on him to win the whole thing and won 1,000. And I didn't even know it until the money just showed up. I was like, oh, look at that.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Hey, yeah, you do.
Oh, I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking, Coop. I mean, it's a little late in the show. I asked you about an hour ago. Just now asked, but cool.
You didn't actually ask.
Very
cool.
You didn't ask me what I was eating for breakfast today.
That's because I don't care.
Oh.
Just kidding. It's because I forgot and I was getting defensive. I was making an attack at you to cover for my lack of preparedness in that situation.
It's very self-aware. It's very self-aware.
I think we could potentially get beyond all of this. Maybe if there were some sort of game that we could play together that could maybe build some camaraderie.
Potentially, we could play something like Weddle Game, maybe. Before we get into Weddle Game, though, I did remind everyone we've got a new game here at BSN that you guys can join in and play along with us. The NFL Free Agency Match Game at bettorsports.com/game. So we've been talking about these free agents, kind of where we want them to end up, fun places. So now you just got to go match 10 NFL free agents with the team that you think they're going to sign with. First place, most accurate, gets a $250 gift card to bettorsports.com collectible shop. There's all sorts of sick gear in there, full-size helmets, mini helmets, jerseys, footballs.
Medium-sized helmets?
Medium-sized helmets in the Bettor Sports shop. So just go do what you're doing already. I know all of you already have opinions on where you think all these free agents are going to go. You might as well go put them in on Bettor Sports on our website and see if you can win some sick gear.
I'm adding that to here's the pitch. Medium-sized helmets. They got mini, they got full size. Now we got medium.
Yo, honestly, that might be like the perfect display size. Like
that's what I'm saying. I think it's a good idea.
You're a freaking genius, JL.
You're a freaking genius, Simon.
Coop.
You're a freaking genius.
And now let's get into Weddle Game.
We're all geniuses.
We are all geniuses here as a collective.
All right. Who are we starting with?
I think Coop's in charge because yesterday you said,
no,
I'm not picking.
I guessed yesterday. I guessed T. Higgins.
I believe it was JL's turn. And he said, I'm letting you guys pick.
I'll do it. Don't
JL,
give it
who
to
are we
me.
starting with?
Don't give it to me.
Do it, JL.
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins.
Okay, we'll start with T. Higgins. It's a good one to start with. We got the height exactly right and the number exactly right.
Whoa.
So
the number exactly
number,
right, 85? What?
This player is number 85. They are in the NFC because they're not the AFC. They're not a wide receiver, and they're 27 or older.
Oh,
so
my first thought was Waller.
Oh,
but
the 27?
He's not AFC. He is AFC, I mean.
Yeah, so we need NFC.
Oh,
damn, well, I feel like Waller would fit. I don't know what Waller's number is.
Tight end or quarterback, it could be both of those.
Barely
85, though?
No, he's not. If it's number 85, it's a tight end.
I don't think I've seen an 85 quarterback.
You're right. I'm not good at numbers, guys. Give me a break.
All right, which tight ends are 85? Cole Kmet is 85.
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. Yeah?
Cole Kmet is he's too old. He's too young. He's only 20.
I think Cole Kmet could be right.
No, he's too young.
You're right. Too young. Way too young.
He's too young. Yeah.
Scott Fish said Waller is 83. Dang. Kind of close. That was close.
Tim said, hot damn, my first guess was completely wrong, all gray. And then he said, holy crap, I got it right on the second one after having nothing right at all.
Right on the second one.
And Tommy said, hey, diddle diddle, too young to be Kittle.
Wait, that's kind of crazy, Tim.
Okay, I proposed Dalton Schultz, and you guys just repeated it in a British accent and then didn't say anything about it.
Is he that old?
I don't know.
I think he's like 26.
So that's pretty close to 27 if we're just saying I think.
I think he is 26.
Okay.
Couldn't have
Uh,
turned.
No, he has not turned 27.
What about
now, if it
Kittle's
is
number?
him, I apologize. Kittle is 85. Is it George Kittle?
Kittle.
Get him in
Let's
there.
go Kittle.
I thought he's
Georgie.
it's George Kittle. George Kittle is
Oh,
absolutely
my
correct.
God, I am
Nice.
the winner.
So Tommy, you were just wrong. You said, "Hey diddle diddle, too young to be Kittle." And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I trust Tommy with all my heart. I'm not even thinking it's George Kittle anymore. You son of a
Busted.
Dalton
Tommy.
Schultz is 26. He turns 27 in July.
Oh my God. He was exactly on that line.
Yeah. So we're
The
good.
level of confidence for someone who's turning 27 in like 3 months is really high.
I was like, now.
Whoa.
I just wrote
George,
an
you got
article.
2 guesses. That's pretty
I
good.
just wrote a Cowboys article the other day.
Dustin did say to do the hard one today. Should we do the hard one today?
Let's do it. We got time.
We got it in 2. We can do the hard one. Coop, give us our first player on this one.
Weirds me out that he puts it in the settings for hard
We
mode. That's so
gotta do-
strange.
I like to do a lineman for these to just.
Aaron-
So I see
Donald.
Tommy down here saying Weddle is wrong. Kittle is 29. And it said that in Weddle. It said he was much older than 24, so 27 minimum, which 29 meets the requirement of 27 minimum.
Yeah.
So we got it.
Let's do Chargers offensive tackle Rashawn Slater.
Slater.
Later.
He's
Okay.
Slater, bro.
So this player is on offense, but not an offensive tackle. They're very tall, taller than 6'4", but close. So 6'5" or 6'6".
This is a big boy.
And they are close to 23, so 24 or 25, and they're in the NFC, not the AFC. And their number
who's
is
the young tall guy?
higher than 70.
Okay.
Higher than 70.
So this is probably either a different offensive line position or a tight end. Whenever
Kyle
you combine
Pitts?
number and height.
So Kyle Pitts is number 8. Unfortunately,
you're right,
He's
you're
also he's also crazy young. I think he's like 22 still. Kyle Pitts is awesome, but he is 6'6", which there are very few guys that are 6'5" or taller.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
numbers over 7. What about Sample? No,
And he's in
AFC.
the AFC. Yeah. Who are them big boas in the NFC?
Cole Kmet.
Man, is he tall enough? I don't know if he's 6'5". Oh, he might be 6'5".
He's
He
definitely
might be
6'5".
6'5". He's a
He's
big guy.
pretty tall. He's very tall.
Get him
Let's
in
do it.
there.
Let's
You
do
want
it.
to try it?
Yeah.
Cole Kmet. Okay, NFC North is correct. Tight end is correct. Cole Kmet is 6'6", which is a little bit too tall. So we know that this player is
6'5".
exactly 6'5", and Cole Kmet is 23, so a little too young. And the number is higher than 85. So we just need an NFC North tight end.
Is it TJ Hawkinson? Is it
Hawkinson?
Tommy Hockenstein?
It is not, but now the height is correct. We're slowly just filling in the squares. So he's 25. So we know this player is exactly 24. That the number is 88 or 89. They are 6'5", a tight end in the NFC North, not on Chicago or Minnesota. So they're on the Packers or the Lions.
Man,
Could be
89,
Brock.
isn't that
Could be
87?
Brock Wright. Is on
Young.
tight end.
What about what was that one
Where's
guy? What was the Sternberger?
Jace Sternberger? Is he
Jace
still around?
Sternberger. No,
Jace
he's on the.
Sternberger?
He got cut by the Packers and now he's
Damn.
on the Bengals.
He was on my dynasty team for a minute.
Yeah, try Brock Wright.
Brock Wright.
Yeah,
Brock Wright is
Show me Brock
absolutely
Wright.
correct.
Oh
Yeah.
my God,
Let's
I am the
go
winner.
for
Yeah, I think
tight
they
end
call
tinkler.
they call Brock Wright the Zebra King, and I think that's because I want to say he owns a zebra.
Okay. Zebra King.
All right.
It's a zebra.
Yes, Brock Wright has an exotic ranch in Texas where he apparently owns a few exotic animals, but he has zebras. So they call him. I've seen him called the Zebra King.
Is this near Simon? Let's send him there.
Simon, are you anywhere near?
I think he's frozen.
His dad's from West Texas in the Amarillo area.
West Texas? Okay. No, that's
Yeah.
not. He's not near there. Scott Fish said Tunyon fits, but isn't on the Packers anymore. He's 28, though. That would have been a good guess. Where is Tun? Oh, wait, I know where Tunyon is now. And it does say I knew you guys could do it.
Are you
We
proud
did
of
it.
us?
We did it. You were right, Dustin. You were right. Well, we did it, Coop. Another day, another Weddle.
I'm very proud of us. I wish there was a super hard Weddle that we could also do, but
Me too. Well,
alas.
we're gonna be right back. We got some Brandon Huffman coming up. We got some games for you. You were listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Bettor Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote a lot of time to our fantasy baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team, to go and see which of those players are way down default rankings? They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool because the commissioner's trying to make sure it is organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft, oh well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions, you can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts here, which is why I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2, 3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, you're organized, so you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back in to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. You got Coop in the Hogs right now. What's going on, Coop?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
are we cooping the Hogs today? Or are we
Cooping the Hogs.
Are we Dave in 2.0?
Coop in the Hogs. Let's ride.
Yeah, Cooping the Hogs. Oh,
Coop and the Hogs.
Simon, where did Simon go, JL?
Simon went to Argentina to save a bunch of lost llamas.
How those llamas get lost?
Only God knows.
Only God knows why. And good thing that Simon can actually speak to God. Little known fact, and he's going to help him catch those llamas. So, Godspeed, young Simon.
Godspeed. Well, we're going to get into our next segment, freshman orientation, where we break down the top players at a position here, incoming rookie class. And we're going to do tight ends today.
Yeah.
Tight end Tinklers, freshman orientation. Coop, who's some of the top tight ends that you were looking at coming in?
Yeah, so this is great that we're doing top tight ends today because later on we have a professional scout coming on, a well-celebrated scout, Brandon Huffman from 247 Sports, and he actually played tight end himself. So rather than bother him with our own tight end takes at that point, we'll get our tight end takes out now, and then we'll ask him, see if maybe some things line up with what we think versus what he thinks. I think for starters, this year, it's a great position this year because there are multiple high-end players and not everyone agrees who the best player is, which is the most fun in my opinion. Sometimes it's like,
Call your shot.
Sometimes you have a good class and there's like one guy that's way above everybody else. This year, I've seen at least three different names thrown out as the number one tight end, if not four. There's another one that people are kind of bandying about. But the top guy and what people are saying is the most safe guy, the most conservative pick at tight end is Notre Dame's Michael Mayer. He's the guy that folks are saying is the most pro-ready. He was highly productive at Notre Dame. He has that it factor. For me, he has a ton of things that we look for. We want guys that are going to be on the pass catching side of the ball. There are basically three types of tight ends in the NFL. There's the two-way player that does everything, blocks really well, catches passes well. Think George Kittle. Then there's the blocking tight end, which is the worst for fantasy football. If anyone that goes down this route is basically dust. We're talking guys like Drew Sample, Michael Pruitt. They really just come in to block. Sporadically they will score a touchdown, but you can't trust them at all. And then there's the other guy who has really kind of very limited blocking ability. So they're only used as pass catching tight end. They come in, play a little bit of slot, but they don't really play in line and they come out of the game. This is guys like Cameron Brate, Anthony Ferkser, Tanner Hudson to a certain degree, Dan Arnold. Like they flash at times, but they don't have the whole package. So we're looking for guys that can be at least two-way tight ends and then really skew towards pass catching to get the high end side with like Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce. Michael Mayer is a guy that definitely can be a two-way tight end. My only concern for him is that he's such a good blocker and he's not particularly fast that he could end up being like a Dallas Goedert type guy that takes a little while to get going. So I'm not sure, JL, if you've taken a good peek at Michael Mayer or if you have any thoughts to add on that.
Yeah, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. Man, one of my best friends, massive Notre Dame fan. So I feel like every single Notre Dame prospect coming out, usually I have a awareness of.
Yeah, I love having there's nothing better than having a mega fan in your corner for some of these teams. Like it's great with you guys like Clemson because you know everything about them. I've got a few guys that are like that with Notre Dame, with Michigan, and it is worth it to check on those guys and get the vibe from the actual person. And I'll give you an example. There was a corner from Michigan that ran a 4.27, and I texted my buddy immediately. I was like, "What's the deal with this guy?" And he was like, "He's gonna be a starter." Sometimes they can get a little too fired up, but my buddy's pretty realistic. He's like, "He's gonna be a starter." Problem is, he doesn't have amazing ball skills. Like not great at, he's lightning fast, but not great at finding the ball, intercepting passes. So maybe not a transcendent type player, but he'll be in the mix.
Definitely be in the mix. We got Nick in the chat. Said, "Good morning, you handsome SOBs." I skipped the nice part. You SOBs. Good morning, you handsome SOB. Scavish Tunyon is just a free agent. Yeah, I'm not currently on a team. And Simon in the chat said, "My yeehaw got cut off." Oh no!
Oh no, dude!
Probably while saving the llamas. And he said, "Actually, it's alpacas. Common mistake." There you have it.
Well, good luck with that, my boy. Good luck with the internet or whatever other situations you might have going on there. Get back to us soon.
Come back home.
Come back
Please.
home. Coming home. I used to picture Simon marching through the mountains of Argentina with a whole squad of alpacas he just saved, singing, "I'm coming home. I'm coming
His
home."
hair just blowing in the wind as he gallops. He's like, I'm coming, Coop and JL.
Yeehaw! I'm on my way home, sweet home.
It just reminded me of that the Fast and Furious, the one right after Paul Walker died, and they had the. Isn't that the song?
Yeah, I think it is. Dude.
Okay, that's why I thought of it. I'm like, man, that reminds me of that scene.
Yeah.
Probably because it was a song made specifically for that scene.
Yeah. Beautiful song.
Oh man. Well, another top tight end prospect coming out of the draft who did pretty well at the combine was Luke Musgrave, Oregon State. 6'6", 253 pounds. Ran a 4.61 40-yard dash, 36 vertical jump, 10 foot 5-inch broad jump. How you feeling about Luke Musgrave?
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to see. So with Michael Mayer, he would have been the far and away number one prospect for me if he ran like a 4.65, even like a 4.68, honestly, just anything below 4.7. The problem with guys that run like a 4.7 or higher is that those guys need to get peppered with targets because they're not bringing the extra yak ability, right? Like George Kittle has that extra level of speed because he runs like a 4.52 to turn a 40-yard catch into a 70-yard touchdown. Whereas Zach Ertz, who runs a 4.74, never did that. Zach Ertz, in all his career, all these years where he's gotten over 100 targets, which like he had like 5 in a row straight, he only cracked 1,000 yards one time. He needed 156 targets for the one season where he cracked 1,000 yards. Whereas if you gave Kyle Pitts those kind of targets, he's probably cracking 1,500. So that's kind of the only knock on a guy like Michael Mayer, where this guy, Luke Musgrave, came out and he had pretty elite speed. Like anything in the 4.6 range is going to be top 15 percentile for the position, right? So this guy, the problem with him is they say he's a little bit raw. So you look at the highlights and stuff. He doesn't really have a lot of moves. He needs to be coached up on how to utilize his speed and his body to make separation. And the major knock on him is that with the ball in his hands, he has like no moves. And a good example of that in the NFL is Mike Gesicki.
The yak hole.
The yak hole, dude. Super athletic, like high school basketball, high school volleyball. He ran a 4.5 as well, but he just cannot break a tackle to save his life. Like he went a full season once without breaking a tackle. And this guy Musgrave, that I was looking at the Pro Football Focus numbers to see what that looked like. 2 broken tackles, pretty much. I think it was in all of his entire college career, just 2 broken tackles. So this guy's got to figure out a little, some move, some way to shed these tackles, or he could end up being like Tyler Conklin. But I think he really, the combine really helped him in that he looked fluid in the drills and he put together some good speed numbers, where I wouldn't be surprised if he went top on this list. He's one of the 3 guys that I've seen actually mocked going first of the tight ends. So it's a real possibility.
What round do you think, like, where does this class stand? What round do you think the tight ends will start coming off the board? Where will we see that first tight end go?
So this class is so good that I think I would bet my bottom dollar there's at least 1 that goes in the first round. We could see upwards of 3 in the first round. And I've seen legitimate mocks from guys having 3 tight ends in the first round. So I think you're going to see at least 1 go in the first round, and you're going to see at least 3 total gone by the end of the second round, and possibly 4. So today we should at least cover the top 4, which Michael Mayer's 1, Luke Musgrave's on the list, and then I'm sure. Let's see who else are you looking at as far as top guys of jail?
Let me pull up my list. We also have some people in the chat. We got EJ saying, "Hey guys, what up, EJ?" And Dustin said, "I say 1, maybe 2 go in the first round." So yeah, I think the top prospects here that we got are, Luke Musgrave, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, Darnell Washington, Luke Schoonmaker. These are all top guys who really performed in the combine.
Yeah, so Dalton Kincaid is one that I want to talk about. So we've talked about Mayer, we've talked about Musgrave. Dalton Kincaid is the one that did not perform at the combine yet. He's going to perform at his pro day, from what I've heard, and I'm very interested as well to see what kind of speed this guy has, because the knock on him is he doesn't have the same size that these other guys have. 6'4", 240. To put it in perspective, Gronk was like 6'4", 260 and change, like 6'5", 260 and change. Kyle Pitts is like 6'6", 250 or so, right? 6'4", 240 is just a little bit bigger than Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram's like 6'3", 235 or so, but he runs like a 4'4". So he relies heavily on his speed. That's how he gets it done. If you don't have the elite speed, you end up in danger of being like that Anthony Ferguson type guy that isn't a full-time guy, that can't line up with their hand in the dirt and block. So I think for a guy like this, it's important for him to show that elite speed, for him to show that he can be used like a primary wide receiver, like the guy that you put in the slot every single play. So I'm really interested to see what he does run at his pro day, because like
You talk about Kincaid, right?
Dalton Kincaid, you can't get any taller, right? Like, you can put on muscle, but you can't get. He's not like he's
stretch.
It's not he's gonna.
You try.
He's probably done growing, so he doesn't have that elite size.
So Dalton Kincaid is out of Utah. He went to Utah. He came in at the combine, measured 6'4", 246 pounds. Got a pretty good production score. Actually, the best production score out of all the tight ends at the combine, with a score of 90. He had a pretty fantastic combine. Dalton Kincaid. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'd say that he, when you say the production score is good, I also personally think that just from pass catching, which is obviously the most fun to watch, from the pass catching film, like he looks the most fluid in the passing game. So for me, I don't think it's a matter of if he can catch balls and if he can be a pass catching tight end at the next level. The question is he a guy that you have on the field for the 80-90% of snaps that we need to see to be a high end tight end, or is he going to be a guy that plays like more 40 or 50% of snaps as the next tight end that comes in and plays the slot or does whatever. So we'll have to see that. The other thing that you have to take into account in Dynasty is that he is an older prospect, right? So like some of these guys, Kyle Pitts right now is 22 years old. Dalton Kincaid's already 24 years old. So, as far as long-term Dynasty production and value in Dynasty, when guys do start getting closer to 30 years old, they start losing value in Dynasty fantasy football. So if this guy takes a couple of years to become the starting tight end for a team, say it takes 2 years, now he's already 26 years old and you only have a couple of years of value versus some of these guys that are 21. So something to keep in mind as far as your dynasty leagues. I mean, for us, what matters more than anything is that they do anything at all. So I still like the guy a lot. It's just we'll have to see what he does at his pro day.
Yeah, I'm with you. The comp I see here on NFL.com is Zach Ertz. They're giving him the comp of Zach Ertz, which that's high order.
It's high order, and that's the difference is that even with Dallas Goedert on
tall order.
I think it's a tall order.
That's a high order.
Yeah, I've seen him comped anywhere from Zach Ertz to the high end. Everyone likes the high end comp. The low end comp is a guy like Dennis Pitta, which Dennis Pitta quietly did have like a top 6-7 season at some point in fantasy football.
For the Ravens,
right? But the thing with the Ravens is, they don't use everybody on every single play. Even Mark Andrews for a while there was only playing like 40-50% of the snaps. With a guy like Zach Ertz, even with Dallas Goedert on the team as the inline tight end, he was good enough to play a huge snap share. Ertz was. So we'll have to see if he's good enough to play every snap or if he's going to just be a part-time guy. That'll figure out if he's fantasy relevant or not.
Yeah.
Now the fourth guy is Darnell Washington. Do you have a little
out of Georgia?
Yeah,
Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia, 6'7", 264 pounds. Dang, it's tall.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good combine as well. Came in ranked 4th in production score, ranked 2nd in athleticism score, with a total score of 85, which came in at consensus 2nd overall out of all the tight ends at the combine. Ran a 4.64 40, 31-inch vertical jump, 10-foot 2-inch broad jump, 21 reps on the bench press, and a 4.08 second 20-yard shuttle.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people in the chat asking about Darnell Washington.
freak. This guy's a freakazoid, man. He just looked different than everybody else at the combine. Like when you watch these guys, and Breathing Fantasy Football, literally, amazing name, by the way, says the way Washington pushed that sled compared to Mayer and Kincaid, does that translate to fantasy hindering teams that might draft Washington for blocking only starting out? It's a good, I mean, like, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch Darnell Washington move that sled. It was insane. Like these other guys are pushing it like they're trying to move a fridge, and he moved it like he was picking up a chair and was just gonna move it like you could have asked him, like he moved it, and like it was like he was gonna look over his shoulder and be like, where do you want me to put this thing? Like he could have put it anywhere on the field, whereas everybody else was like, he just literally was like, here you go.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and the thing is with Washington, to me he's the real low floor, high ceiling guy, because you worry, like Breathing Fantasy Football literally said, that maybe he does end up being the blocking tight end somewhere, and he never really pans out into the pass catching tight end. It's what happened with Donald Parham, which I think is an interesting comp, because he was a guy that at times flashed his pass catching ability, but then the Chargers just made him a full-time blocking tight end with his massive size, right? With Darnell Washington, when you watch the combine, I kept going back and forth being like, this guy's too clunky. And then he would come out and he would do something. I'd be like, oh, that's nice. And then he looked terrible in a drill. And then he finished the combine by making a crazy one-handed catch. And I was like, oh man, like this guy could actually be just quietly super awesome. I think a big thing for him, and the luxury we have in Dynasty versus Devy, is that we get to see the landing spot and kind of surmise where his role is going to be within the tight end room. When you draft tight ends, a tight end coach in a modern NFL looks around the room and says, okay, this guy is going to block. This guy is going to come in and catch passes. Or they might sit here and say, Travis Kelce's so much better than everyone else that he's one, and then year 2 and year 3 and year 4, right? That's the ideal setup, is you have one starting guy. Sometimes they split the role up into different roles, though. If Darnell Washington goes to a team, let's say the Chargers release Gerald Everett, and then he goes to the Chargers, then it's okay. They looked at this guy and they think he can be the full every down tight end. They have Trey McKitty, who blocks on like 30% of his pass plays. So they already have this other blocking tight end. This is a good spot for Darnell Washington. If he gets drafted by Arthur Smith and to this Falcons team where they have Kyle Pitts, who is a locked in pass catching tight end, now we sit here and we're like, oh man, Arthur Smith is going to use this guy as a blocking tight end. I don't want any part of that. So we have to I think landing spots can be really telling for this guy, even more so than draft capital, even more so than, like, I don't care if he goes in the 2nd or 3rd round. I care about what the team is going to use him to do. If that makes any sense, JL.
Yeah, a lot of, and a few scouts are talking about using him in the run game, which I thought is very interesting. I think you're right about the landing spot. Draft capital will matter for sure. The landing spot will be interesting, just like you said, usage. I think tight end usage is so weird across different teams. It's not like uniform. Some teams really heavily utilize them, other teams don't, and every shade in between. So I completely agree with you. This guy's make or break it is going to be whether somebody takes a shot on him.
Exactly. And there are certain coaches, like historically speaking, like for instance, I'll use 2 coaches that aren't even in the league right now, but they're the best examples. One is Adam Gase, where Adam Gase has never had a tight end that ran routes on more than 80% of his pass plays. So like even Mike Gesicki, he would make him stand in line with his hand in the dirt and block. Like his offense just keeps the tight end in to block as part of the protection a lot of times, which is terrible for fantasy football. On the flip side, you have a guy like Chan Gailey who would use big slot in his offense. So when Tony Gonzalez was the tight end with the Chiefs, the guy led I think he was 2nd in routes run from the slot of any player, only behind Hines Ward, which is exactly what you want to see. And Chan Gailey ended up going to the Dolphins, and the year that Mike Gesicki was like tight end 6, that was his tight end. So we watched with Adam Gase, Mike Gesicki, terrible fantasy football, blocking on 20% of his pass plays. Under Chan Gailey, Mike Gesicki blocks on only 2% of his pass plays. That's why it's so important to know the schemes and know what these coaches do. I mean, Chan Gailey, when he was with the Jets, he didn't have a good tight end. So you know who he used in that big tight end slot role? Eric Decker. and Eric Decker had like 1,400 yards. So these schemes, man, if you get the right scheme for Darnell Washington, he could be awesome. You get the wrong scheme, like Arthur Smith's blocking tight end, it's going to be a nightmare. So again, that's why it's such a good thing we have the luxury of waiting until after the draft to look at this. Now, Joe, there was one more guy, if we're going to do a quick top 5, that I wanted to throw out there, a guy that from the combine is now creeping up towards 5 for me. It might be my tight end 5 now.
Who is
It's
it?
a guy named Sam Laporta. You got some info on this guy for us, Joe?
Let me pull it up. But yes, he's a tight end out of Iowa, Sam Laporta. He had some good hype, 6'3", 245 pounds, ran a 4.59 40-yard dash, 35-inch vertical jump, 10-foot 3-inch broad jump. Got a 72 production score at the combine, according to Next Gen Stats, 86 athleticism score, and 82 total score, ranking 5th amongst all tight ends at the combine.
Yes, dude. And this is the guy where, I was looking around at some of the guys before the combine and just kind of making notes of like, if this guy is fast, right? Like if this guy shows the athleticism, then it really could translate. And this is one of the dudes where he was in that bucket. If he ran slow and he didn't look good in the drills, then he would have been off my radar. But because he ran a 4.59, cracked that top, that's going to be like 90th percentile for tight ends, right? So because he cracked that, when you look at his yards after the catch, when you look at his broken tackles and stuff, now the profile looks awesome. From what I saw, he had, we talked about how with Musgrave, like he only had 2 broken tackles. This guy had 30 broken tackles when he was in college. This guy is just, he's electric. He can escape. And then when you take broken tackles plus yak, that's the formula for big chunk plays. That's how David Njoku, rips off these 40, 50-yard plays. The problem that you run into is that the guy is a little bit tough with the contested catches, with the ball skills. The extreme example is Johnny Smith. Everybody knows that when you get the ball in Johnny Smith's hands, then he can make these crazy explosive plays. Like if you get him in space on like a screen, he can take it for 60 yards. The problem is getting the ball into his hands without him dropping it or without it getting broken up, because he doesn't have that like spatial awareness to like use his body and separate on guys. That's, from what I've seen, that's the rub with this guy Laporta. Like he needs to figure out how to be the guy that can create for himself versus having things created for him.
Where do you see Laporta going in the draft? What kind of teams do you think would target him?
So that's the tough one, and it's something I want to ask. I really can't wait until we get Brandon Huffman on later today, because with the high-end tight ends, which we've kind of talked about mostly, it's easier to say, okay, no one's letting them slip out of the top 3 rounds. This is the kind of guy that if he does fall, then it's going to be a pretty big indictment on him, and we're going to have to move him down in our rankings. The spots where you want to see guys like this go are, for me, teams that, obviously any team that just has like a top 2 target spot open on the team already would be great. So like if he could be the second target on the Texans, or if he could be the second target after Michael Pittman on the Colts, that would be great. But there are certain spots with aging wide receivers and aging tight ends that would work too. Both teams in Los Angeles, if you were to go to one of those teams and just kind of, the Rams, where both their wide receivers are 30 years old and Tyler Higbee is a free agent next year, I think that'd be a great spot for him to go. He would immediately be a better pass catching tight end than Tyler Higbee, so he'd be able to work into the game in that facet. And then eventually, as those other guys age out, now he becomes a top 2 target on the team, and he's a focal point of the offense. So those are the spots that I would like to see a guy like this go if those teams aren't going to prioritize tight end this year.
Yeah. So we got, let's see, what all the players we hit. We hit Laporta. We hit Mayer. The other ones, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, Darnell Washington, and
those are my top,
Sam Laporta, Luke Musgrave. That was the last one.
Those are my top 5 right now. Those are my top 5. And the one that I need to slot in, it's hard to rank now. Like the draft is going to shake up my rankings completely. It always does. But because I don't play Debbie, But in terms of predicting who I think will be the better fantasy tight ends, once we get the last guy I need to slot in is Dalton Kincaid, but I'm leaning towards Kincaid being my top guy right now. If he can show the athleticism, then I would have him as my top tight end. And then honestly, if Luke Musgrave gets drafted before Michael Mayer to the right spot, I would have him second, because Michael Mayer, I like to see speed at tight end. I do. For fantasy football, I like to see that yak ability, and I don't know if Mayer has the speed that we like to see. Right now, Washington's too risky for me, so I have him at 4. And then Laporta is the guy I'm really excited about at 5. And if he gets the draft capital, I'll move him ahead of Washington. It really depends on landing spots for those guys, but that's my top 5 right now.
There you have it. Top 5 tight ends. Top 5. I think we've hit all the top 4 skill positions now.
No, we got to do wide receivers still.
We missed wide receivers. You're right. I thought we did that.
We'll
do this tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think that's on the schedule for tomorrow. Coming up, we got a new segment, Jimmy Buckets List. We're going to go through some bucket list items with y'all. We also got the brackets, and we're going to be bringing on Brandon Huffman, professional scout, CBS. Come talk to us about some draft prospects coming in. You were listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Bettor Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
no way you know.
And Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know all this.
14, also a trick question.
Uh-huh.
I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders, unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay. Keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. Yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had 2 people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. Coop and I are here. It's Coop and the Hog still. What's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Simon
yeah.
rescuing his alpacas, so it's Coop and the Hogs.
Coop
and then
and the Hogs.
we'll hop off and you can do Simon and the alpacas after.
Simon and the Alpacas. Tim said, get out of the chat, Simon. So Simon said, hot pot show, hotspot is not. Wow. Pulling a Tommy with the rhymes.
Tommy Bahami.
We're getting into our new segment called Jimmy Buckets Lists, where we go over our favorite bucket list items Coop, did you bring a bucket list item for us today?
Yeah, I mean, my bucket list items range from very much possible to borderline impossible. So I think we should probably start as close to possible as possible, probably, right? And then
Yeah,
maybe
it
we can
sounds like solid reasoning.
we'll start with possible and work our way into not possible. Everyone in the chat, though, please let us know what your bucket list items are.
Yeah, throw
I'd
them in the
love to hear
chat,
those.
BSN chat, the FYF chat. Throw it in there.
Throw them in there. Because I want to hear and I want to steal them and make them my own and do them before you can do them. So get them in there, and then I'll tag you. I'll save your username and I'll tag you when I've done all of your dreams. I've accomplished them all. So yeah, get that out there. So one thing I would love to do at some point is write a book.
Write a book, really? What would your book be about?
So I don't know. I don't know. You could. I mean, like a big inspiration in this industry and in general is Andy Behrens from Yahoo. He's a great dude. He's actually written a book. He wrote a book that was turned into
multiple books.
Multiple books now. So if I'm writing a book about what I know most about, it would be potentially football, fantasy football, things like that. But it'd be kind of cool to create something. Create a world or something like that. So I don't know. I'm not gonna just pigeonhole myself now. And maybe if I have more free time in the future, I'll dabble in that. But that would be cool. I think like that's something that at this point I am pretty much just a writer and I do videos. So it'd be cool to expand my my work into
Coupe Fiasco.
Yeah. Right. Instead of writing
the golden story.
Right. I'm writing fantasy articles and doing fantasy videos in the morning. Instead, I'm going to write fantasy books and do a movie, right?
Tight end, New Beginnings.
Coop and the Hogs, Part 3, The Hoggening.
Tight end, Loose Beginnings.
That's right.
That's the title.
And
nailed it for you.
And it's not about football at all.
Not at all. It's like an autobiography.
Yeah. So
I am so like a massive fascination with writing a book. Like just the process of it is kind of wild to me.
It's crazy. I mean, there's certain cultures where like it's super ingrained in the cultures to do it. Like I learned that when I
write a book.
Dude, so like in Iceland, legit, I'm not even kidding, more than half of the population has published something. Like it's just part of the culture there. Like, oh yeah, you're either write a book or you become a singer or you have something that you do, right? That's like just like the culture of that place. That like you're gonna create something, and a lot of people write and publish books. It's kind of cool.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, like it is insane. They have definitely the most published authors per capita from what I heard.
I had no idea. That is an odd fact. Or
could have been a Murrow. Could have been a Murrow,
Could have been.
Yeah.
Alex in here. What up, Alex? Said write a book is on my list too.
So I think I embellished it a little bit. 1 in 10 people will have a book actually published. So they have more writers. 4 in 10 people work in a creative field, but they have more authors and readers per capita any place. So not more than half, but 1 in 10, which is kind of a lot.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Dustin said, I have a book that I started, just can't find time to finish. I like that on the bucket list item. He said, Coop about to have a kid talking about free time. LOL, he has no clue. Yeah. Classic parent gatekeepers.
Well, the good thing is
they love to do it.
I'm planning on more than 18 years, if possible. Knock on wood. So maybe when that kid goes off to college, I'll have some time to write a book.
Then you'll write that book.
Exactly, dude.
Tight end, Loose Beginnings. Simon said, take a pic with JL and Tim standing atop the hill in Clemson Stadium. We are wearing jerseys with the year we graduated as the number. No pants, facing the field, butts poking out, sun setting.
Glorious.
Sounds like heaven.
I just said that I wanted to go to a game, so I can be there to take that picture for you boys. Somebody got to take it.
Somebody's got to take it. Unless we set up a tripod.
Or you can set up a tripod. That'd be fair. Then we can get my butt in there too.
True.
But I didn't graduate Clemson, so I wouldn't be able to have the jersey. I'll take it for you guys.
Only Clemson butts allowed.
You know the rules.
So my Jimmy bucket list item here, it's a simple one. I want a rematch I want a rematch in the sit-ups competition against Stephon Diggs. I
Mm.
want to run it back now at our current physical states. Peak performance, baby. Let's go.
You sure you're ready right now?
Absolutely.
You think you take him down?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. You think he might have gotten lazy? And you should wait until maybe a little after he retires. When he takes that first year of retirement where he just goes and parties, then that's
the year.
That's when you should attack him. Maybe not like peak, but he's an all-pro wide receiver.
One of us has been training, and it's me. And Simon said, "You cheated before, you can cheat again." That's my plan.
Yeah,
that's my plan.
That's smart. Yeah, I like that.
Thanks. You got another one for us, Coop?
Yeah. So let's say I just did one at one end of the list. I'm going to do one at the high end of the list, which is obviously go to outer space.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Like, naturally I'm going to wait for it to get a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Because, when I go on a boat, sometimes I need Dramamine. So I'm not sure if I'd be able to handle the whole capsule situation.
Dramamine. Dramamine sounds like, I guess, drama mean.
When you have
it's called Dramamine.
Is it Dramamine or Dramamine?
That's what I've always heard it as. It's a weird
one
word.
of those two. Yeah, but either way, and I honestly sometimes if I'm like hungover, I don't do well on planes either. I just get a little anxiety. So I'm not really sure I'm meant to be an astronaut, but it seems like they're kind of just letting everybody go up there now, and it seems like it's a lot easier of a process, more like a very aggressive plane ride than it is strapping yourself into a tin can and getting slingshotted around the moon. So, I think I'd be more of the billionaire passenger type of astronaut than I am the exploring Mars type guy. But I would love to go just to say that being an astronaut is like the coolest thing ever. Just saying I'm an astronaut, that's the best. So can't beat that, right? So put that on the list. Writing a book, possible. Going to space, also possible.
Writing a book in space.
First person to write a whole book in space.
Would you settle for like the low orbit?
Oh, I would settle for
part of space. I think that's what the billionaires do. I think that's what the Bezos and them did is they get into like they dip their toes into space essentially.
That would be ideal. I mean, I would settle for like NASA lying on my behalf and saying that I went to space.
It's just saying that you did it.
But then I didn't even have to actually go. Like that would be tight, right? Like I think the important part of this is saying that I'm an astronaut, right? So then you have to go to space to do that. So yeah, I would definitely settle for a quick low orbit, pop in and out,
Yeah. Simon sent me one that I think is on both of our bucket lists actually. So it's a trip to Chile. Going to Chile. I'm half Chilean, or my family heritage is half Chilean. So I've always wanted to go there. As I've never been. I've been to Italy, which is the other side, but never to Chile. Simon had a trip planned to go, but then the pandemic hit, and I think they had to cancel.
Oh, wait, he was going to go without you?
I know. I got so mad at him.
He was going to swoop your bucket list, bro.
And then the pandemic saved me. So now I'm like, don't go again, or I'm going to be mad.
Yeah, that's the long one. That's a long one, right?
That's the long one, yeah. Long and thin.
That's a cool one, dude. Santiago.
Santiago.
What do you have things that you would want to do there, like heritage-wise, or would you just kind of make a plan once you knew you were going? You kind of go online and
classic family stuff for sure. Like I definitely want to go see like that whole side of the family just had like it's just kind of crazy. Like my grandfather came to America with his sister. They were orphaned, so like it's just like I'm very disconnected from a lot of the history there. So I definitely want to do that stuff. I also have family who own like ski resort in the Andes, trying to go there, trying to hit him up and be like, yo, it's your cousin. Let's go.
It's your boy.
We get some ski passes.
There you go, dude. That'd be tight. I didn't realize, I guess it makes sense. It's a mountainous region. They should have skiing there, but I just, in my mind, I just picture, whenever I picture South America, I'm just like, it's hot all the time. So yeah, it's just a hot jungle. So I forget that, yeah, of course they have mountains there.
I kind of want to go to Easter Island at some point. That feels like that's a good bucket list item for sure.
Yeah.
Seeing the
Yeah,
Andes,
maybe-
yeah. And I got
I
some
see-
like some of my close friends are their families are Chilean, so they have like family there. They go all the time, so probably go hang out with them too.
Yeah, I see the chat coming in with some Bucky list items. Hal, Work and Grind, saying go to every MLB park for a game. That would be a cool
Ooh,
one.
yeah. I know Kevin Frank comes in the chat. Our good buddy Kevin Frank, that's his bucket list item too.
Has he been working on it?
I think so. To get an update from him.
I've done a handful of them just from being a sports fan and just like being somewhere and saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to a game while I'm here." So I've done obviously done Fenway, I've done Yankee Stadium, I've done Camden Yards, I've done Nationals Park, and I've done the stadium in
To
Arizona.
Camden Yards?
Yeah, I did a Camden Yards is awesome. I did
Nice.
a weekend trip where we went down and got and this is when the Nationals and the Orioles were terrible. So I went down and I got tickets for $6 to go to Orioles game, and then the next day I got tickets for $5 to go to a Nationals game. So
Nice.
we drove the drive down, and just to go to those stadiums is cheaper than going to one game at Fenway Park by a lot.
Dang.
Yeah, so it was worth it for us at the time. So it was a lot of fun. And
Tommy said, he said, which half, top or bottom, is Chilean? It's the bottom. Simon said, JL was pissed. I had a full 10-day trip planned. He did.
Wow, 10 days, bro. That'd be so much chili.
He would be. It's so
do
much.
They have good chili there?
No. Maybe. I don't know. I've never been.
I'm a big chili guy. We got another one in the
This-
chat, the Appalachian Trail. Breathing
EJ.
Festival, literally. Apparently that is very difficult, and it's fairly dangerous for a number of reasons. But if you can do it, it's a huge accomplishment.
Is that the one Reese Witherspoon did in that movie?
I don't know. But I would say that, yeah. Do you know what
Nailed it.
movie? Do you know what movie it is?
Wanderlust? Is that right?
Chat,
No.
help us out with that. Help us out with that.
What were you doing right then?
Yeah.
You look like you're Googling, then you go, Matt, chat, you help him out.
I'm Googling, and actually,
No,
wait a second.
Wanderlust is a movie with Paul Rudd.
She did a movie Wild, but that was the Pacific Crest Trail.
Okay. Different trail.
Yeah. So a similar idea though. But yeah, apparently the Appalachian Trail, it is pretty rugged, right? Like it's not just like a path. And also some of those, you can obviously die from like exposure, dehydration, all that. But also it goes through some kind of nasty areas apparently as well. Some kind of poverty-stricken areas. So if you are going to do the Appalachian Trail, make sure you do your homework before you go. All right, make sure you do your research because it gets pretty rough. My wife had a friend who did the Appalachian Trail. It took them a long time, and there were definitely some bumps in the road, but they got it done. So just do your research before you do something like that. I'm going to do my research before I go to space, so you can never be too safe with that stuff.
Space thing, wild.
Yeah,
we gotta make that happen. FYF in space.
Yeah, this is a great one from Hal. Be on a competitive cooking or baking show. I'd get stomped, but it would be fun as Hal.
How often do you think he says that?
Yeah, all the time, dude. And
All the time. I would get wrecked on a cooking show. I don't know how to really improvise cooking. I gotta follow instructions.
Yeah, and it's so funny too because everyone has that moment where you whip something up and you think I'm like a chef, you know what I mean? But it's usually me just kind of drunk and I just reheat something, but I put cheese on it and I'm like I should be on Chopped.
I'm amazing.
Yeah, they're transforming things and baking souffles, and I just when I reheated it, I put a little pepper on there. I'm like, wow, I've transformed this dish, these tacos from yesterday. Yeah. Ooh, Peakton High School qualify for the Magic Pro Tour. Always wanted to play competitive Magic: The Gathering.
Wow, I did not know that you were an MTG guy.
Yeah, I briefly played the one of like the virtual apps of that game, and it was a lot of fun. The game mechanics are cool, but from what I've heard, that is one of if not the most expensive hobby you can get into, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never done it.
Oh
Simon's
yeah,
played it.
I've heard that that is a very expensive hobby. They're always changing the rules on what cards are allowed, what cards aren't, and like some of the cards to have a competitive deck, you got to go out and get these cards, right? Like, Alex, do you have like a Black Lotus or any like the really cool ones? I'd love to.
Is that a good one?
I love hearing about that stuff. Topped at states a long time ago, so he was deep in the gathering. That's sick. Yeah, the Black Lotus is I've heard of. I don't know much about it, but that's the one card name that I've heard that's like a sought after one. But I love reading
Black
that. Like
Lotus.
It's got a badass name too. Yeah.
And Dustin said you have to stay current to play competitive. What does
Yeah,
that mean? Stay? Oh, you just gotta like stay on top of it.
No, so I kind of mentioned it before, but they changed the rules, right? So like if like basically it's like when people go to tournaments and the top guys will like create this deck and then they'll win the tournament, but then they'll go, okay, like this mechanism of combining this card with this card is too powerful. And it's like just too
So it's
good.
just like
Everyone can use
nerfing,
it. So they
nerfing
nerf
and
it. So they say
buffing,
like
but with
right.
rule sets.
Exactly. So they say, okay, this card is not allowed to be played in this particular style, and then now you have to stay
Interesting.
competitive. It's like you might have to go out. Like I think the Black Lotus's ban is no longer allowed, but like at a time, like if you didn't have certain cards, you couldn't compete. So now you have to go out and buy certain cards to build a competitive deck. That's why it gets real expensive.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
it's
think we
like,
got Simon calling in. No, maybe not.
who's
Thought he
Simon?
was. There he
What's
is.
up? Can you guys hear me?
I
Yeah.
remember that guy. Yeah, you sound great.
I'm on my data instead of on my internet. But I heard all this bucket list talk, and I had one that I wanted to share if you guys don't mind.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been on my list forever, and it contradicts another fear that I have. I'm generally fearful of birds. I think birds are terrifying. I brought it up on the show before that I don't trust birds. Usually the only ones I like are the little guys that hop around. But the number of videos I've seen growing up of a raven dropping off, a crow dropping off a gift for someone that they found, dropping off a shiny object that they found, recovering keys that somebody dropped off of a bridge. They don't just do it for anyone, though. You have to become friends with a crow. And they are smart enough to develop friendships, relationships, and remember human faces. So all I want is to befriend a crow, have a crow friend that leaves me gifts on my front porch or on my back porch. It finds a shiny thing and thinks, oh, my human would like that. Or I drop my keys down the sewer and the next day they're on my front porch. That's the dream.
So your bucket list item is to befriend a crow?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I feel like I would have so much anxiety that like so much pressure to keep up the relationship, and it would cause me so much stress. Because I'm like, what the heck does this crow want? Like, how can I be a good friend back? And I
give him shiny objects.
They just like
give him a quarter, a button.
Is that what he wants? Does he want
That's
money?
What he wants money. Well, it doesn't have to be money. It can just be shiny.
Oh.
Yeah.
But that's what I understand about crow friendship is it's built upon a shiny object foundation.
That's the common ground.
That's the common ground between humans and crows is we both like shiny things, and it allows us to develop strong bonds.
I had no idea. Maybe if I had known this information, I wouldn't have made so many enemies in Seattle.
There are also people who say they have crow enemies. Like just like a crow can remember you and like you.
Those people are me.
Truly follow you and taunt you and scream at you while you're walking around. They'll get their other crow buddies in on it.
I told this story before, but when I lived in Seattle, I was walking down the street and there's a crow up at the top of the houses, and he was like, "Ah, ah, ah." So I thought it was like, being funny. You're like, "Ah, ah, ah," and I was like, "Yo, shut the hell up, bird." And I look up and I start whistling, thinking I'm being a funny guy. And I take and then I'm like, "Ha, got him." Take 3 steps. Wow! Goes in the back of my hair, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck!"
They don't like that, dude. He called the cronies on you, bro.
Oh
JL,
my god!
you are not a friend of the Crows. Like, I hate to
No.
tell you, that probably spread.
You don't
They
have to.
probably know
You don't
your
have to
fate.
tell me. I
Your
got the
picture-
idea.
Your picture's hanging in the wall of every Crow Walmart, just on the wall.
100%.
Do not give shiny objects to this man.
He is
Dibs on
not
that.
worthy of your shiny gifts.
Dibs on that album name, Friend of the Crows.
Friend of the Crows.
No friend of the Crows. I'll start a rivalry fan.
friend.
The new album or the
Cool.
next album's Enemy of the Crows.
Band name, No Friend of Crows.
It's pretty good. It's pretty
good.
good. And you could start a feud with the Counting Crows, and just
Oh yeah,
it's built into the name.
nerds.
I feel like they got pretty good
Nerd.
heads. I feel like people are going to take the side of the Counting Crows in that battle.
Also, Coop, I just wanted to say, you couldn't pay me to go to space. Like, that's on your bucket list. My
Yeah.
bucket list item is to never leave Earth. Like, just hang out here. We're good. I don't need to be the experiment while they're figuring that out. Like, I'll let my kids figure it out after you and a couple other idiots who want to go to space die, and then my kids can go to space
Right.
safely and nicely.
Yeah, there's a lot of like the common ones that people pick for bucket list stuff and that I just have no interest in. That I don't know. Going to space would. That's why I said I want to be an astronaut more than I want to actually go to space. Right?
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
The same thing with like skydiving. Like if I'm gonna skydive and put myself through that sort of traumatic business, why not just go to space? You know, why not shoot? Why not aim a little higher? Right?
You know what? That's a good point. But I
Yeah,
like skydiving.
that kind of just destroys your entire logic for
Yeah,
space.
as soon as you
Simon.
said it, I was about to argue against it, and then I was like, you know, I've gone skydiving twice, and I'm gonna go again.
That's pretty
Okay, but
similar
you know,
to going
here's
to
the
space.
difference. Way more people have survived skydiving than have survived going to space. Like a huge.
Way more people have
percentage more.
died skydiving than died going to space.
Oh,
Well, that's not the statistic I'm choosing to represent my side of the story, John.
Yeah.
The one I'm choosing.
See what I'm saying? What about some of the other common ones? Like, you know, like I want to see the Northern Lights. Do you guys? Is that something you guys want to do? Or is
For
that-
sure. Definitely see the Northern Lights. I don't know that that's like big enough to be on my bucket list, but it's just something I want to do.
I'll tell you-
Antarctica is another common one that I have on my list. Like,
That'd be cool.
just the sheer isolation of it is so interesting to me that I want to be there. I just want to see what it's like
You
to
just
be in
want
the
to
most
yell.
isolated.
Yoo-hoo!
Penguin,
Heyo.
Daddy's home.
He's on. Wah, wah,
You
wah.
just
Where my
made a
penguins
friend-
at?
So you just want to be friends with?
But the Penguins have taken me as their leader.
we lose track of Simon. We go to Antarctica to find him, and he's sitting on like a penguin throne.
It sounds like most of your bucket.
costume I wore for Halloween when I was 5, my penguin costume, it doesn't fit anymore.
It sounds like most of your bucket list is just to become friends with various birds.
And not go to space.
Right? So at the end of the day,
There's no animals in space.
No space birds. Just
what other birds would you like to be friends with, Simon? While we're on the, let me just knock out the whole list.
I'll tell you what bird I don't want to be friends with, and that's an emu. I'm good if I'm never within 100 yards of one of those things ever again.
They look mean. Oh wait, you have an emu incident?
Well, I stayed on a farm one time. Like it was like Airbnb, but for campsites, and I rented out like a campsite on this guy's farm outside of San Diego. And we pull up, park our camper van, and all of a sudden I just hear boom, 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 boom. Sounds like a freaking war drum in the distance. I'm like, is there an army, like a continental army marching towards us with their drummers in the front? And then we start walking around the farm. No, it's their 12 emus. That's just the noise they make. The noise they make is just like a war drum from their like gut and chest.
That's awesome.
And then their eyes are empty. Their eyes are like about as big as a golf ball and just empty. It's just murder and drums in that head.
Murder and drums.
That sounds horrible. That sounds horribly awesome, though. Like Mad Max style drums, but yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be on the receiving end of that business.
I do have
That's all my
I do
bird
have-
ones though.
I do have one more Jimmy Buckets list item here. I've always, since I was a little kid, wanted to be a pilot, like be able to fly a plane. My grandfather was a pilot. He had his own plane, and so that was like a big thing, you know, that he and I bonded over when I was a kid. And for the longest time, I kept going and trying to do research to learn how to become a pilot, but I didn't have enough money. And then I got too busy because I got too old. So that's on my bucket list item. Learn how to be a pilot, then take Simon and Coop up in a plane. Simon jumps out. Coop and I go to space. Let's go. We ride into the sunset.
And I have no parachute. The crows catch me.
And you land safely on a bed of penguins.
And we tie all of our bucket list items together. Coop gets to go to space. JL gets to learn how to fly. And where is the plane landing? In Chile.
In Chile.
That's where we're coming back down. And then all these bucket
we're all
list
meeting
items
up.
crossed off all at once.
Let's go. Dang, that actually works.
And worked out.
We just need a vehicle that can fly and go to space.
And we just need someone whose bucket list is to build a plane that can go to space. Yeah, you're right, JL. Like, we just got to only bring in people whose bucket list furthers our agenda.
Right.
Like, we're empowering people to complete their bucket list items, but really it's just selfish ways of things we need done to complete ours.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I want a book written about me, so I need to find someone whose bucket list item is to ghostwrite a book about someone else, not important.
Ooh, I said write a book was on my list earlier.
Oh, good. You I got a book to pitch you. It's about a really not interesting guy who shits his pants a lot.
I kind of like that idea, dude. We could jazz it up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I like
Great job.
We have Hot Pasta in the chat saying he wants to make a hole-in-one on his bucket list. Caveat being that he has to have all his buddies there, and then everyone goes crazy after, which is a huge, very important part. What some people don't realize, though, is that hitting a hole-in-one can actually get kind of expensive. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, you got to buy a round for everyone in the clubhouse, right?
Got to buy a round for everybody in the clubhouse. So
I am not. I will break that golf etiquette. That is so like. That's how you know it's a rich man sport. Whenever you do the best and your reward is buying alcohol for everybody else.
Right. Yeah. Maybe take a
Cheerio.
take a peek around the clubhouse before you decide whether you want to lay up or not.
Yeah, do a little lap.
Yeah, the par 3.
Then you say, "Excuse me, I hit a hole in one."
You got to be very.
How do you tell them? Do you go up to the front? Do you go to the bar?
You don't.
Do you just start telling people at tables?
I guess you do. I guess you just roll up and you're like, drinks are on me, everybody, because I hit a hole in one. I think it's honestly it is. It's like a great excuse.
It's like a shield against people lying about hole in ones in the clubhouse. You know what I mean? Because if you go into the clubhouse and you say, "I got a hole in one," they're going to say, "Well, now you got to buy a drink for everyone." So you're only going to say that if you like really want to brag about getting a hole in one, because now there's going to be all this pressure to do it.
True.
To buy drinks for everyone.
That's a good point.
Keith said, "My bucket list is to stop Tony from hitting that hole in one."
I love that when you have a good challenge.
Oh my God. Can you imagine Tony's just about to get it his first time in his life? The ball's rolling towards the hole and Keith just comes
like a slow roll,
kicks it.
And then just giggles and runs away.
He just dives out and dives and the ball hits him in the chest like you're diving. Get down, Mr. President. And he just drives.
That's hilarious.
See Hal down here saying that he wanted to go fishing with the River Monsters guy. I just read an article about him the other day that show got canceled, because he caught all of the River Monsters.
He caught all the monsters, dude. He was too good.
Yeah, he was too good. So the show was done.
And
it's a damn shame.
Craig had a good one. He said he wanted to see and touch a cloned prehistoric animal, a dinosaur or a woolly mammoth or something.
What about like bones, or does that have to be
I think he wants them to be alive, yeah. But
that's it's gonna be tough, man.
Just clone the inorganic bone matter at the end of the day.
Just Jurassic Park it.
Yeah, and that's all well and good until you end up being the first dude that gets like woolly mammoth pox and it ends up being just excruciating. So I think you got to be careful with that.
The dodo bird is also extinct. We could start with that one.
You just start talking like Ray Romano.
Work your way up, dude.
That's the woolly mammoth box.
That's the woolly mammoth box. Oh my God. JL. I have known the voice for Manny the Mammoth from Ice Age Forever, and I know Ray Romano's voice. And in that moment, you just connected those two things that were disconnected in my mind, and I'm having like an existential crisis that Ray Romano is Manny the woolly mammoth from Ice Age.
He is.
He even looks like him a little bit.
He does. Simon's just staring into the Matrix now, dude. Your brain, your brain has That was the missing
The
link
vacant
in
stare
the,
into
Literally
into-
just Ray Romano transporting a baby across the tundra with a
That's the whole
sloth and a
movie.
saber-tooth tiger. That's the movie.
It's the whole movie.
Oh God,
Isn't the tiger like Antonio Banderas?
I don't know.
I could be wrong on that. Maybe he's Puss in Boots.
he's definitely Puss in Boots.
Well,
But
great
apparently
job
they're
on
like
the Jimmy
10
bucket list, guys. We got brackets coming up. Sporting events bracket. We also got an interview with Brandon Huffman, Pro Scout. Stay tuned with us. You are listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network.
As a longtime baseball fan, here's my message to other baseball fans, to steal a line from the Packers' future Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Everyone needs to relax after what we saw this past weekend at spring training games out in Arizona and down in Florida. Got going, and we're inching closer and closer to Major League Baseball opening day. The rule changes in Major League Baseball is not for myself. It's not for you out there, the hardened baseball fan, whether you're a fan 5, 10, 15, 30, or even 50 years from all around this great country. It's not for those that are going to be locked in. It's for trying to generate more fans. So if they want the pitcher to go out there and work in rhythm with a guy on base, begin to wind up within 20 seconds, nobody on base, begin to wind up within 15 seconds, or have the batter make sure that he's back in the batter's box within 8 seconds, then making the base pass first, second, and third bigger, eliminating the shift. All of this is to make the game better. We've seen leagues, whether it be the National Football League. Do you think it's the same league as it is today in 2023, or what we saw in 2022 as it was 30 years ago? No, it's not. Is NBA basketball the same? No. How many games do you see being played? 83-79 finals. You don't see that at all. So every league adjusts to try and bring what? More fans into the sport. And that is something that Major League Baseball is going out there and trying to do. I've been critical at times of Rob Manfred, whether or not as a MLB commissioner, whether he likes the sport based on some of the rhetoric that he has spewed in years gone by. But I got to be honest with you, as a longtime baseball fan, I've been a Yankee fan my entire life. Watched a ton of Met games here in the tri-state area. Watched baseball all around. Can't wait for October baseball. Think it's absolutely unbelievable what is transpiring now and what's happening now, and the rule changes being brought about baseball. It's going to bring back to the game to when I became a fan, where the stolen base was something, moving guys over was something, having men on base, batting averages ascending, not being an all or nothing league where either you're striking out or hitting the ball over the fence. And that is what baseball is trying to do. So as everybody tries to adjust, and change is difficult, whether you're changing your diet, exercise routine, changing your relationships, changing a job, change is different. I get that. And it's hard. But let's take a step back. Let's understand what Major League Baseball is trying to do here. And they're trying to repopulate or repopularize the sport. That's what they're trying to do. They're clearly the third most popular sport in the United States. They want to make it less regionalized. This is the way they need to go about doing it. I'm all for it. For more content like this, download the Better Sports Network app or go to bettersports.com.
Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. We got a best sporting event bracket coming up for you. Coop, I'm excited for this one, man. I feel like sporting events are one that just get the blood going.
Yeah, especially on a show like this, it's about sports. This is the place to do it. This is the place to sort this out. I'm trying to see if fixing
your evil layer is shutting behind you.
I think it's actually fixing my camera, though. It's actually it did exactly what I would hope it would do, which is fix the lighting of my camera. How much better is that?
Much better.
That was like movie magic, bro.
Crazy. Now you got a crazy, trippy backdrop.
It's weird. It's actually, I feel like it's making my shirt look weird now.
All sorts of squiggles.
Whatever, dude. All right. Well, anyway,
all right, let's get into our bracket. Let's get into our bracket here. Best sporting event is the subject topic. Our options for this bracket are Summer Olympics, Daytona 500, college football playoffs, the Masters, March Madness, Stanley Cup playoffs, World Cup, and Super Bowl. His first matchup is Summer Olympics going up against Daytona 500. Coop, you have the first vote on this one. Where would you like to go?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because they're very different sports. Like for the Summer Olympics, they take place over quite some time. So you're seeing a lot of different events. You're going to a new city. It's pretty epic, but you also have to invest a good amount of time into it. And also, I don't really know a lot of the players. I don't know what's going on with the. I can't really name anybody outside of like. Usain Bolt, you know what I mean? So even though I did throw the javelin myself when I was in high school, and I would love to see that, I don't know. I have to go with the Daytona 500. I've been to NASCAR races, but I've been to like the local ones in New Hampshire, and even those were epic and an amazing time. So to be able to go to the big race of the NASCAR Cup, like the number one race, I'll take that all day. So give me Daytona 500, and because Simon is either Simon can give us his vote in the chat, or we can take the chat's vote. How do you want to settle ties if that comes down to a jail? Because I know you're not going to pick NASCAR.
Yeah, Simon will vote via text message or message. So he does have a proxy here. He will be voting. Okay. I have the next vote here, and Coop, you are correct. I'm not going to go with Daytona 500 because I've never watched it once in my life. Right. Summer Olympics is a treat that you get every 4 years. Nice little mix of events in the summer, the dead time of sports. It's so fun. All the countries coming together. There's this big huzzah about it, right? All these like the ceremony and all these things. Like that's awesome. That's dope. And then plus you get a bunch of different sports. You don't just got to watch a bunch of people commute basically for 500 laps. You can watch curling. You can watch bobsled. You can watch ice luge. That can't be a sport.
Not in the Summer Olympics. It's not.
That's a Winter Olympics.
But I will say that there is the Summer Olympics, because it is only every 4 years. It is more of an exclusive event, and I am definitely the kind of dude that can be sold on exclusives, right? Like I like.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So.
Simon said only naming Winter Olympic sports.
That's his hatred for NASCAR transcends. He's just like, whatever it is.
You can do skiing, you can do snowboarding, half pipe.
Yeah. All right, Simon. Simon, what's your vote? What's your vote here? Settle this time.
Simon says Olympics easy. I got my wisdom teeth out during the Summer Olympics. I laid on the couch recovering for a week with my pain meds, doing nothing but watching the Olympics. Best way to recover from surgery. I can't believe
America's pastime.
America's pastime.
Taking too many pain meds and enjoying the Olympics.
That ain't American. I don't know what it is.
Awesome, dude. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Like I said, I can be sold on exclusives. So why don't we move the Summer Olympics on and get to the next one?
It does move on. Summer Olympics will move on. And our next matchup here is college football playoffs going up against the Masters.
Yeah. You want to go first on this one?
I'll go first on this one. I'm going to go college football playoffs. Might be a surprise to many. I don't dislike golf. I don't dislike watching golf. I don't dislike playing golf. I actually like all of those things I just said I didn't dislike. College football playoffs, though, man, the energy. The energy is just, it's palpable. And the Masters, it's in Augusta. It's the same course every year. No variety. Need some variety. Give me some college football playoffs. Football, baby.
Yeah, I love football. I truly do. I talk about football every single morning and every single day. I get off the show, write about football, finish writing about football, and I'm like, I'm going to take a little break by going on Reddit and reading about football. But I will say, I just was talking to my pops. I've never even been to any golf event. So going to the Masters, which it's like impossible to get tickets to that. You basically have to get into like a lottery system unless you want to pay a crazy amount. Going to the Masters and having that experience is like a bucket list level experience for me. I would love to go do that. I would also be the kind of dude that goes and spends like $2,000 in the gift shop getting stuff that says Masters all over it too. And I would golf in that for the rest
They got to
of my
have
life.
like little replica green jackets, right?
Oh, I'd be getting the green
jacket.
I'd be getting the gold jacket, green
jacket?
jacket. Who gives a shit?
I thought it was gold jacket, and I read Dustin's comments that green jacket.
Yeah, that's the quote from Happy Gilmore. Gold jacket, green jacket. Who gives a shit? So I would. I don't care what it is. I'd be getting the replica jackets. I'd be getting.
Do they have that? Because little
Oh,
kid
yeah.
versions.
Yeah, for the rest of my life, I would only golf in shirts that say the Masters on them. So just for that alone, I'm picking the Masters. What does Simon have for the tiebreaker on that one?
Euro Masters. I don't think Simon has voted yet. Simon, tell us what your vote is in the chat. And Dustin said, Masters hands down. It is the greatest tradition in all of sports. I love that it's the same course every year, unlike the U.S. Open or British Open. The exact opposite thing that I said about it being at the same course as a downside.
Simon said, the Masters is special. I don't even love golf, but holy shit. They made grass exciting. Going to that was a bucket list item I got to do. Just unreal. So Simon's been to the Masters, and that's his pick. And it looks like a lot of the chat is voting Masters as well. So Masters will move on in this bracket.
Wild. The Masters moves on. And getting conflicting information in here. Simon said, it is green. Jay says, green jacket was Happy Gilmore. Dustin says, gold jacket was Happy Gilmore. Well, you let us know when you figure it out, chat. The next matchup here is March Madness going up against the Stanley Cup playoffs. You have the first vote on this one, Coop.
Yeah, no, I got to ask. So Stanley, like for March Madness, so I've been to March Madness, but when I went, it was like the regional round. So I went to regional rounds and watched a bunch of games, but it was like just the first couple of rounds, right? So when we're talking March Madness, are we talking like Final Four? And for Stanley Cup playoffs, are we talking I'm going to all 7 games of the Stanley Cup, or am I going to
it's the whole event. It's the whole kit and caboodle. So the entire March Madness tournament against the entire Stanley Cup playoff series.
So like I'm going to New York and watching the regional, and then I'm hopping in a plane and I'm flying to where the Sweet 16 is.
I don't think it's just necessarily you have to go there and worry about like all the logistics of how you go there. It's more so just like, what's the best sporting event?
Yeah.
Which one's a better sporting event for you?
This is such a tough one because like these two fall in the same category for me. Where like the sports on their own are great during the regular season, but the tournaments are on another level. Like football to me all year long is football, and playoff football is great, but it's still pretty much all the games are very high stakes throughout the entire season. So the playoff football to me isn't necessarily crazily elevated above a normal regular season game, whereas the Stanley Cup playoff hockey is a totally different beast than regular season hockey. Playoff hockey is wild. But even then, March Madness is just one of the greatest, if not the greatest sports inventions ever. Just this big tournament, and they have a system set up where these like lower end teams, if they win their conference, they get to go and play against Duke. And every year there's a crazy upset, and even a 1 seed lost in the last couple of years, which they basically never have. So now anything's possible, right? Like there's just something magical about March Madness. It truly is like just watching the clock tick down on Duke losing to like a 15 seed is the best, dude. So I would love to be there for that chaos. So I got to go March Madness.
I am with you, Coop. It's going to be March Madness for me. There's something March Madness will always have a special place in my heart. It was something my mom and I got really into when I was younger, and we used to do this like bracket competition at what was my high school, which she worked at. And so we do the brackets every year, and like the English teacher would put it on, and I could win like $300 as like a kid if I just beat out these other teachers in the bracket competition. And it was separated into 2 parts. So like you do the first 2 rounds, and then everybody got a new bracket for like the last rounds. And I was so into it. I would come home from school on that Thursday and be watching in school, trying to follow those first games, and then come home and just sit there with my bracket and turn on the TV and just watch games. And it's just like such a magical experience that brings back straight nostalgia.
$300 is a lot of moolah for a young JL.
For a kid,
too.
yeah.
You rich
10-year-old JL was like, oh my God, $300, let's go. That's like 3 games. Simon in the chat, or Dustin said, hockey. I've gotten a picture of the Stanley Cup, and just being near it is magical. It's what every fantasy football league strives for. Have a trophy that gets handed down. That is kind of cool that they pass it around.
Jay says he's leaving. Hal says the cup is awesome, but the tournament is epic. I think a lot of people agree that March Madness is special, although Jay, being the resident hockey guy, not liking the pick. But March Madness moving on, right, Joe?
Simon says, give me March Madness. I can't think of another sporting event that gets such a large portion of the population to get invested. Everyone can make a bracket. It's so fun. That was also going to be my point if you brought up the Stanley Cup. My counterpoint was that you can't argue against just the sheer love, like the volume of people that care about it. That definitely goes in March Madness' favor.
And now he's saying he's leaving because of the Duke slander. I'm sorry, but Duke losing in the early rounds of the March Madness bracket as like a top 3 seed, it will never not be funny to me.
Yeah,
my mom, it's just perfect. All right.
My mom coming in the chat saying, teachers, coaches, staff, beat them all. The best, yes. And it was just so fun. My mom and I would just be checking each other's brackets.
Yeah,
it's the best.
That is fun.
I love it. I love it every year. And we're going to be doing a March Madness a bracket for everybody. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Our next matchup here, World Cup up against the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm first on this one. World Cup against the Super Bowl. World Cup is pretty cool. I feel like every time the World Cup happens, it always goes the same way for me. I'm not super interested, and then everyone just keeps talking about it to the point where I get interested enough to watch, and then I'm like, oh, what's this? What's going on? And I start to get hooked. That happened this year when I was down at the Prize Picks office, and they have this giant room with all these these nice lounge chairs, giant TVs, and we're watching. I forget which game it was. It was, I think, the semifinals where it went to penalty kicks. And I think it was Messi was just like going ham, and it was just crazy. It's a really cool event, but it's not the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is special. I'm going Super Bowl. What about you, Coop?
Yeah, so for me, and I see Simon in the chat, he says, I like football more than soccer. I don't pay attention to soccer outside the World Cup, but the World Cup is better than the Super Bowl. Coop nailed it when he said NFL is good all year. You know, you make some great points, Simon. So, Simon, you vote for the Super Bowl. Simon votes for the World Cup. The World Cup is awesome. And the most people can say soccer is boring all they want, but there's nothing more electric than when that ball hits the net. Like, the goal in soccer is the best moment in sports because it is just the crowd goes nuts and everything changes, right? It's everything. So that's awesome, but you just got to pick football, man, because I'm a football fan. I might never have the Super Bowl is easily a bucket list item for me because now it's become so expensive and cost prohibitive. It's very difficult to go. And if I had some way to go where I didn't have to spend $5,000, like, I would love it. You know, the World Cup for me would be cool to go visit another city or whatever. But when the World Cup comes to Boston, I'm probably going to be able to go to that, you know. But with the Super Bowl, it's just, for me, that's got a special place in my heart. So give me the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl is moving on. Super Bowl is moving on. Can't see what the chat have to say about this. Dustin said Super Bowl is every year. World Cup is like the Olympics' little brother. It's kind of a funny way to put it. Our next matchup here is the Summer Olympics going up against the Masters. Coop, I think you have the first vote on this one.
Yeah, and in this one, it's like going to the Olympics to me, I have to factor in too much of the rest of the event. Like, the interesting part to me is like going to another country and, you know, experiencing that compared to the actual watching of the events. Like, the actual watching of the events, watching guys run track or watching guys, throw a discus, not super entertaining to me. Whereas with golf, like, I actually play golf. I can appreciate how much better these guys are at the game. And, like, just be able to watch these guys hit these crazy drives, or especially actually seeing guys consistently nail putts that are like 15, 20 feet. Whereas, like, I get nervous if it's like 3 or 4 feet, right? Like, just to be able to see that would be amazing. And along with all the tradition stuff that goes with the Masters. So I'm going to take the Masters here.
Did you know that golf is an Olympic sport?
Yes, I did know that.
Olympics, you get a lot. You mentioned the random obscure sports that like throwing a discus, but I think you left out some of the fun ones, like, I don't know, gymnastics, volleyball, basketball, track and field, tennis. I'm not looking at a list over here. Handball. It's a bunch of good sports. You can have a lot of fun with that. It's not too boring. I gotta go Olympics here. I got Olympics. I do like watching the golf tournaments, but I just don't get drawn in like I do with the Olympics.
Yeah.
So Simon's got to be the breaker here, the tiebreaker. I don't know which one he picked though, because he's talking a lot. Do you see which one he picked?
I cannot see what he picked.
Tim said I can make crazy golf shots every once in a while. I cannot be an Olympic athlete in anything.
Yeah, Simon picked Olympics. It's official.
Picked Olympics. All right, the Olympics is moving on to the finals. And our next matchup is March Madness against the Super Bowl. Yeah, yike. This one is mine. March Madness versus the Super Bowl. This sucks. I have to go with March Madness. And I was going to go with... I texted Simon whenever he came up with the idea of this bracket that I was like, Super Bowl is going to win. And he's like, I don't know. And now here I am convincing myself to go March Madness. So I'll go March Madness over Super Bowl.
Yeah, this really should be the matchup in the final. Like, these are such epic events. But the difference for me is that I've been to March Madness games, and it was awesome. But I've never been to the Super Bowl. And the other difference is football versus basketball. Like, I'm just a football guy. So give me the Super Bowl. That's my pick.
On Super Bowl. So we're split, and Simon picks March Madness. So March Madness is going to move on. And our last matchup here, Coop, the Olympics, Summer Olympics, up against March Madness.
Epic.
You have the final vote. You have the first vote on this one.
Jail, did you know that there's basketball at the Olympics?
I did.
Yes, and the United States doesn't always win. The United States doesn't always win. So, I would, I'm picking March Madness. It's just the better event entirely. It's more cohesive, and I'm not just sure how electric the crowd even gets at the Olympics. It just seems like a lot of like looking around, like nodding, like, oh, nice. He threw that shot put pretty far, I think. I don't know. I can't really tell from here, but all right. Like, give me the March Madness Duke student section jumping up and down, like the rowdies getting crazy, or like, the fans from Wichita State that finally get to see their corn boys come up and give it a go and win a couple games. Like, that's what I want to see. So give me the tourney. Give me the March Madness.
March Madness. Coop, your vote goes to March Madness, and I have to agree with you. I like the Olympics. I don't get into the Olympics, any of the Olympics, as much as I think the general populace does. I think they go ham for the Olympics. March Madness, I watch every year, without fail. March Madness is going to win. It's got to win. Simon went March Madness too, so it's going to get the full sweep victory here.
Wins, dude. And the Dunk City, that was awesome. The Florida Gulf Coast team, that was crazy, bro. Awesome.
Or like when was George Mason made a run at it. That was a fun time. Remember that summer?
Best, dude. Butler. And the thing is, like those runs, sometimes though, like that can elevate players or coaches to the next level. Like Butler as an 8 seed going to the Final Four with a young coach. Little do we know that young coach was Brad Stevens, and he was going to eventually be the coach of the Boston Celtics. But like it is an opportunity for you to come out and make a name for yourself. And even if you don't make it all the way to the bigs, like, people remember the heroes of March Madness. They remember Jimmer Fredette, and they remember Marshall Henderson, just like dragging a 15 seed to a couple rounds by himself, dropping like 40, 50 points. So it's good times, man. It's good times.
It is. Well, that's going to do it for our bracket. March Madness is going to win best sporting event. Coming up, we got Brandon Huffman from CBS, Pro Scout. It's a Pro Scout. Coming
It's gonna
on,
be
and we're
great.
going to talk to him about the prospects, about his process and how he looks at evaluating players. So stay tuned for that. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show, Better Sports Network.
What are you doing?
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Sell me on doing away with the two-conference system in the NFL.
Is it really a sale whenever this is something that's commonly agreed upon? I'm selling you on water being wet. I'm selling you on something that is objectively true right here. We look at teams at the end of the season and we go, how the hell does one team have such an easy schedule while another team is just absolutely getting obliterated? And that's because of the two-conference system, because the division system feeds into this conference system. It's a symptom of the greater problem. Like these divisional matchups, you're telling me it's fair that the Buccaneers are in the playoffs after playing the Panthers twice, the Falcons twice, and the Saints twice this year? That is unbelievable. There are multiple more deserving teams every single year that, because of this system where we silo them into random groups, it determines the order. And yes, originally this was geography based, right? We had these divisions, they were geography. It's 2023, my dudes. Geography doesn't matter whenever it comes to the size of the United States. These teams can travel anywhere. They don't need to geographically locate them in divisions or conferences to make the games make more sense. If USC can be in the Big Ten, why the hell can't Miami play San Francisco every year? It can happen. They've got more money than these colleges and they're not taking classes. All it does is create an ecosystem where less talented teams can get rewarded for playing in weaker divisions and more talented teams are punished for continuing to improve.
Damn, bro.
Drop the mic.
I like to picture some geography teacher out there just threw a pen on the ground. He was like,
How dare you?
He smacked the globe. He was like, what do you
all
mean?
the hard work we've done.
2023 geography doesn't matter, right? Smacks his
You know
globe.
how long it took for us to get respect?
Globe goes spinning around, right? Geography doesn't matter. How dare
I'm
you?
just imagining they ripped on the world map and underneath is algebra 2. Like they just go straight into being a math teacher.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Paper straws. Oh, they're so bad, Ray. I mean, I'm almost tempted to say screw Mother Earth. Give me a real straw. The paper straw thing is a step too far in saving the planet for me.
It's a great idea. The problem is it has to last. Like, it can't go mushy halfway through my drink.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. They have a hard time standing up if you don't drink that.
100%. That's my issue, Ray. I'm all for taking care of the only planet we got. But, Ray, some people like to drive a lot. I don't. I don't get on them for they have to drive 20 minutes to work every day. Can I just get a plastic straw? Like, I think, Ray, we should be able to pay for a card that says, I don't drive every day, so they said I could have this kind of environmental impact by getting a plastic straw. I am in favor, Ray, of government-issued plastic straws if I have the proof that I'm worthy of such a thing. If you want it, you get it. It's kind of like the Clear Pass.
Yeah,
the
there you go.
airport.
Okay.
Like, Ray, I'd be willing to pay an extra $2 a year, and I get as many plastic straws as I want when I go out to the restaurant.
And the $2 goes toward cleaning the oceans or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's not a terrible idea. Not terrible.
Call, chat, enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Better Sports Network.
What's up, gang? We are back in with the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. I'm Andrew Cooper here with my buddy JL Garofalo, and we have a special treat for you guys today. Coming on with us momentarily is Brandon Huffman, the national recruiting editor at 247 Sports. He's the executive director of the Avery Foundation, which is his own charity. We're going to ask him about that a little bit later. And he's on NBC as an analyst for the All-American Bowl. He's on the selection committee for the Polynesian Bowl, and just general legendary scout. Brandon, what's up, my dude? How you doing this morning?
What up, Huff?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Dude,
thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for coming on. I was at the FSGA conference, and I'm talking to Joel Cox from CBS. And, you know, we're going back and forth because I'm a big tight end guy for fantasy football. And he's like, you got to talk to Brandon Huffman. And I was like, how am I supposed to talk to Brandon Huffman? Like, how am I supposed to talk to a guy like that? And he's like, I'll get him. He's like, I'll see if he wants to come on, talk ball with you. And you were kind enough to come on, man. So thanks, dude. How's your off season been so far?
Oh man, there is no off season in college football recruiting. You know, the season ends in what, mid December, early December before the bowls. But we have signing day in December. We have another signing day in February. We have the evaluation period coming up. Events. I mean, the quietest time of year is actually during the season because there's not as many events to go to. So yeah, my off season will start like in September and end in December.
Right. Well, that's where you just kick back, and watch a few games and be like, yeah, I knew that guy was going to be
exactly.
that's the celebration period. So yeah, we I have a ton of questions for you because it's not often, to be honest, like the most people out here, you don't get access to people like yourself because a lot of it feels proprietary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your process, these teams, obviously, like, the NFL teams, their scouts never going to come out and say, here's what we do and here's what we look for, because then other teams are going to steal that. So we're hoping to tread that line with you. Give us whatever information you feel comfortable. But one, I threw it out to our community and the people that watch it and listen. And one of the big questions that always comes up that I really don't know the answer to, in your opinion, how much weight goes into talent versus how much weight goes into character? Like, and is there a kind of a set percentage there, or is it all just by feel of the talent outweighs any character issues or vice versa?
Yeah, I guess the best way to answer that is it's been an evolving process. I would say early on, I've been doing this. This is my 21st recruiting class that I'm now covering. I would say early on, character seemed to matter a little bit more. And, there was academic things. If a guy wasn't going to qualify, he probably wasn't going to be rated high. He probably wasn't going to be evaluated as well. But now coaches are looking for talent. At the end of the day, college coaches want to win. They want to win football games on Saturdays. They want to win national championships or compete for national championships. And I think it's, 95% talent. It's 5% character. Maybe the numbers are skewed a little bit. Maybe it's 90-10. Maybe it's 99-1. It looks great for sound bites when these coaches say things at press conference or they tweet certain things. But the reality is they want the best football players. And typically they are going to overlook, certain character issues if that player can help them win games. And I think, you look at the NFL, and the NFL is kind of the same thing. There might be a guy with a long history of red flags, but if he can play football, he's still going to be drafted high. He's still going to be, they're going to do whatever they can to keep him on that roster. And I feel it's the same way in college football, that at the end of the day, you might have your small town high school coaches who say, hey, character matters more than talent, and our hard workers are going to play. But at the end of the day, the most talented player could be a complete prick. He's still going to play if he's going to help that team win.
Yeah. How early on in the process are you tracking? Like, do these players start to pop up on your radar, and are you starting to track that development of talent and character?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not unusual for me to be aware of a player before he even starts high school. And nowadays, a lot more college coaches offer players before they've ever taken a class on the high school campus, let alone played a snap of high school football. And, a lot of those guys are genetic freaks. They're no-brainer types that you're going to just wait for 4 years until they get to college, but they're going to play in college. So you're tracking guys as young as 8th grade. I mean, there's a kid, he's the number 2 running back in the country for 2025. He had multiple offers when he was finishing 7th grade. Now he's at Mater Dei High School, same high school Bryce Young.
Yeah, I know Mater Dei.
Yeah.
Is that DMV?
Jordan Davis. This is the one down in Southern California. Jordan Davison is the running back. And he had offers before he even started 8th grade classes. By the time he got to Mater Dei, he already had double-digit offers. And so coaches knew about him. And then he finally got to show what he could do this year as the starter. Raleek Brown, who's now at SC, was the starter as a senior. Jordan was his backup. And this year as a starter, he had a breakout season. He's got 40 offers and he hasn't even finished halfway through high school. So you're tracking guys earlier because college coaches are offering these guys earlier and earlier. You're still going to have late bloomers, but it feels like from when I first started in 2003 till now, you know about these guys much earlier in the process than you knew 20 years ago.
What has changed from 2003 to now? Like, what shifts have you seen in just like maybe like the macro view of scouting and how these teams are looking at players?
I was doing a seminar earlier this week about the recruiting process. And one of the things I said is in 2003, when I first started, if you were a dude, if you were like a dog at your high school, your coach might make a VHS tape for you. And he was only making a VHS tape for 3 or 4 guys at that time. That was a lot of work.
A lot of work, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to do 3 or 4 tapes, and that was a school that had, wow, you've got the resources to make VHS tapes. And then DVDs was how you found out about Caleb. Well, then in the late 2000s, you had YouTube, and then you had Huddle kind of reconfigure the entire evaluation and the scouting process by now every kid, a kid who could be on the freshman team who was only on the kickoff team, now has access to making a highlight tape. And so there was more awareness about players early on because everybody had a highlight film. Well, then social media took off because now you could self-promote yourself, whether it was on Twitter, Instagram, old school Facebook. Now you have TikTok. It only took one viral video for you to be in the conversation now for college coaches. So the brand awareness and just the visibility has changed as obviously social media has changed, as technology has changed, as digital media has changed. Now you went from my coach needs to make me a VHS tape to, the 63rd player on a 63-man team now has his own highlight film.
Yeah, we see that in other industries, stuff like the creator economy, right? You're empowering these individuals. But I never really thought about it in terms of the players. But you're right, they're part of our universe that has social media, and that could change the process. That's very insightful.
That is cool. And from just on the point with the younger and younger prospects, that also kind of helps with the character part, right? Like if you've got these people going to these guys, like what if Antonio Brown had somebody in high school saying, hey man, like you can go to another level if you take this seriously. But instead we had the situation with him where you couldn't even find a place for him to play ball in college, right? And then they finally did. So that's probably helping with a lot of this. Now, a lot, and like you're saying, we all have access to the film now. We all have access to all this crazy tape that we never did, the 22, all 22 stuff. So I want to know, let's say you got a tight end, because you were a big tight end guy, and you get down there, you played, right? You mentioned, where'd you play?
I was a small college. I went to Zeus Pacific in 1994, and then quickly realized that my career was not going to be on the football field. It was going to be off the football field. So, went and worked in the athletic department, and here I am several years later. But I was a very average high school tight end playing in the veer offense in the early 90s at 6'1". My same high school class in the state of California, just a couple hours down the road, there was another tight end that people might have heard of named Tony Gonzalez. When I saw him the summer before my senior year, that's when I knew some guys hit the genetic lottery and some guys don't. I was in that don't camp.
Tony Gonzalez. He was pretty decent, that guy.
Had a little bit of it.
15,000 yards in the NFL, I think. But so what I was going to ask is, so let's say you got the young tight end prospect, and you go out to see him. After the game, and I'm sure you have different questions depending on the player or so, but when you get the ear of one of these guys and you want to kind of feel out what kind of person it is, do you have some generic questions you might ask or an approach you might take for, because that's the part that we don't get to see. Any of us can go on YouTube and be like, oh wow, look at this guy. He's got a great first step, but we don't get to actually talk to these guys. So if I do get an opportunity to say I'm in an elevator with Luke Musgrave, what's something that I might say hey, that might give me an idea of the kind of character or his football intelligence. Might be a question like that. So what's a conversation like that typically like?
In fact, Luke Musgrave is a great example. Former 24/7 Sports 4-star Luke Musgrave. He was an interesting character because he was a world-class skier as a high schooler. Wasn't playing football until kind of later in his career. So, you ask, what made you transition from being – he lives in Bend, Oregon. If anybody is familiar with Bend, Oregon, they know it's one of the most remarkable places in the West to live. It's Central Oregon. You got mountains. You got lakes. It's sunny 300 days a year. And it's kind of the antithesis of Oregon when you think rain. And you got this great mountain. So you can understand why skiing was such a priority. But you look at the body and you think, hey, this guy could play at the next level in football if that's what he wants to pursue. So, what made you decide to go out for football? Obviously, he had family ties to the NFL. His uncle, Bill Musgrave, former coach at Oregon, longtime NFL offense coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Previously was at Cal as their offense coordinator. So he'd been around the game, and obviously football is the game. But how do you go from being a world-class skier to now pursuing football late in your high school career? And you hear the answers, and you're thinking, okay, this guy's got a clear-cut vision. He's got a clear-cut path. And this is why he's pursuing this. And he also has the physical traits where if the transition is pretty quick and seamless, given his athleticism and athletic ability and his body type, this guy could continue to play football at the next level. So you're asking, what makes you want to play this position? What makes you want to play this sport? Why do you think this position is best for you? That's one of the things with guys a lot of times is you're looking at them and they're thinking they play one position, but physically they might be better suited for another position. So you talk to, well, why are you playing that when your meal ticket could be at this position? And, I love having the ball in my hands. It's like, okay, but do you like to make money? Because with your body type, you're better suited off at that position where you're going to make a lot of money, as opposed to being at that position where you may not make as much money. Your skill set's not kind of what the NFL is looking for, what colleges are looking for. Is it really worth playing for your heart or playing for your head? So you ask these questions and you try to find out why, what makes them tick from a football standpoint. Not, you get all the pat answers of like, well, what makes them tick as a competitor? A lot of guys, you go to events and you don't see any competitive bone in their body. They've got the physical traits, but they don't want to compete. So you're asking, why this, why that, and try to learn more about them. And that becomes a spoke in the wheel when you're doing the evaluation process, because, there's some things that numbers can't tell you. There's some things that data points can't tell you. And that's why you got to really do a deep dive in. I mean, I'll talk to NFL scouts. I know a number of NFL scouts. They'll call me and ask me what this kid was like that's on a draft board right now. What was he like as a 10th grader? What was he like as an 11th grader? What's the people around him like? They're doing 4 or 5 years worth of recon before they invest the millions into this player as a potential draft pick. So we're trying to do that early on so that we have answers, so that when we are projecting them as NFL prospects, we can include all those data points.
That's so interesting, because when you were saying that, my first thought went to Josh Rosen, where they asked him those questions. And he was like, well, if I don't do this, I can do something else. And like, if you're running a team, it's like, there's no something else for me.
Yeah,
I'm drafting you in the first round. I'm watching football all the time. Yeah, so that is so interesting. The other thing, so going off what you said there, and you talked about, okay, your meal ticket might be blocking. Now, I'm not sure how. I'm sure you know all these guys intimately, but I was asked specifically to ask you about a player, Darnell Washington, because people are up in the air about what his role might be at the next level. And this combine, it's funny because you got a little bit of all of it. You had the sled where he just crushed the sled, right? But then at the end, he's got that one-handed catch, and it's making people say, okay, well, this guy can go up and get it too. What are your thoughts with him? I know. It depends where he goes and all that, but do you have kind of a read on what type of player he might end up being?
Yeah, and I mean, he is the classic example. As we're having this conversation, that's exactly who's at the tip of my tongue of like, hey, you could go make a lot of money. Now, he's going to make a lot of money no matter what position he plays. But when you see a kid like him at 16 years old, and you know what the NFL is looking for, and there was a stretch there for about 4 years, I think it was. Josh Garnett was drafted in the first round of 2016. Then there was like a 4-year stretch there, a 3-year stretch where there wasn't a first-round offensive lineman pick that weighed more than 300 pounds out of high school. Most of those guys were 240, 250 pounders as high schoolers who got bigger. Then you had the 2020 kind of COVID draft with the Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills guys that were above 300. But there was this shift for a little while where you wanted to get those long, athletic guys with frames that would become prototypical left tackles. Well, Darnell Washington was playing tight end during that specific era. So you looked at him and, the reality is with Darnell as a high schooler, he wasn't the most natural pass catcher. Okay, he had all the physical tools that you wanted, from the size, the wingspan, the length, the arms, the hand size, the frame, all of that. But when you watch him run routes, it wasn't the most fluid looking thing in the world. It wasn't the most fluid routes that were being ran. He fought the ball a little bit. He would be able to catch slants, anything that was kind of thrown into his stomach or his chest. He was able to, keep his arms underneath him. Those were easier catches. But if he had to adjust and maybe make some catches with his hands as a high schooler, it wasn't always the prettiest thing. So you thought, okay, if he doesn't get it together from a true pass catching ability standpoint, he's going to end up being a left tackle. Well, clearly he goes to Georgia and he's used situationally. They've got a phenomenal tight end room. But even when you watched him at Georgia, you kept thinking, my goodness, this guy would be a top 3 pick if he wanted to play left tackle, because he's physical enough to be left tackle. He could put that weight on. But you look at guys like him that have that frame and you think, man, your meal ticket could be at this position, but your heart is at that position. Yeah. He's one of the few that has the physical tools, that has the genetic lottery test win that can allow him to play the position where his heart's at, rather than some guys that have to have that come to Jesus moment in college and like, hey, you can go be a solid player at this position in college, and go work as in a car rental agency or do something non-football related, or you can go play this position and you're going to be playing on Sundays for a long time. Darnell Washington has the physical traits that's going to surpass any of those. And as he continues to develop, watching him now compared to watching him as a junior in high school, even now you're seeing a guy who's now getting it together as a pass catcher and looks more natural, looks more pure and fluid. Sky's the limit for a guy like him. But again, not everybody is built like Darnell Washington.
Right. That scares me a little bit. It scares me, before you go, Gio, it scares me a little bit, the idea of like a team does draft him and says, okay, well, we're just going to have you block. It does make me a little nervous.
I like how we always imagine if an NFL player won't make it in the NFL, they'll just go like sell cars. I don't know why, but that, like, as soon as you said it, that's in my head every single time. So
I was looking at Ed O'Banion, who was the National Player of the Year, the guy who kind of changed the NCAA. And he went from being the National Player of the Year, a lottery pick, to selling cars in Las Vegas. And, here he was at the top of his game. So, yeah, it's kind of a natural, because those guys are usually the nice faces of their company, and they have the traits to be. Look at some of the biggest supporters of college sports programs. It's the local car dealership.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Here you want them.
That's a good point. Huff, I wanted to ask you, who are there any players in this upcoming draft that you think are either being slept on from a consensus standpoint for fantasy or for the actual NFL? Are there any players where you're like, man, this player is going to be a star, but people aren't seeing it?
Yeah, it's hard to call a guy who's going to be in contention to be the top pick being slept on. And having watched Bryce Young, again, I saw Bryce as an 8th grader at a camp where he got his first offer from Texas Tech. And of course, you look at the kid and you're like, as an 8th grader, not even as a guy fresh out of college, you look at like, okay, he's unremarkable physically, but my God, he's got dynamite in his arm. And you watch him, and so everybody's picking this because that's what we do for the 3 months or 2 months after the combine before the draft. But this kid is wired so much differently than any quarterback I've seen. We 24/7 had him the number 1 player in the country in 2020, and he lived up to that and then some. And I still say, Jameson Williams doesn't get hurt, if John Mechie doesn't get hurt, Alabama wins the national championship running away in 2021. And, you look at what Bryce does and how his ability to make things happen. He's a guy that I'm like, why are we overthinking this here? I understand that the draft is so much about the physical traits, but he's a guy that, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Another guy I'm really high on that I love is Josh Downs. And, loved him in North Carolina, loved him in high school. And if you think Josh Downs is good, wait till you see his younger brother in 3 years from now. His younger brother was the number 1 defensive player in the country in the 2023 class, headed to Alabama. But Josh was kind of overlooked, maybe overshadowed a bit coming out of high school. In the class that he came out in, you had Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's now at Ohio State. You had, Julian Fleming was the number 1 receiver in that same class. And so Josh Downs kind of, flew under the radar, had a great career, had a little bit of, quarterback issues this year in terms of getting on the same page with Drake May early on before Drake May really kind of blossomed into the dude that he's become. But he was the guy for Sam Howell. So I look at a guy like Josh Downs and I see a comparison I would make for him as a guy like Robert Woods. That Robert Woods, was really good in college, but didn't get drafted until the 2nd round. Marquise Lee's another guy. Both of those players were same high school, same college team. But, for whatever reason, they were 2nd round draft picks. Maybe it was bad combines or pro days. It was so long ago, I can barely remember why they were 2nd rounders. But Josh Downs, that kid that sneaks into the 2nd round like a T. Higgins did. And then you get NFL teams going like, God, how the hell did we miss up on that and not draft him earlier? Downs is my guy. He's kind of like my sleeper that I'm thinking, okay, let him be a 2nd round pick and then make a lot of NFL GMs look foolish for not drafting him earlier.
Love that call.
I swear with some of these guys like T. Higgins, teams get too safe and they say like, oh, well, we'll just take this guy who could play special teams if he can't play split end, right? And it's just like, just take the DK Metcalf. Take T. Higgins. Forget special teams. You know what I mean? If you end up with N'Keal Harry, whatever. But I don't know. I don't like the safe call on that stuff. Dude, I wish we had more time to talk to you, dude. It's so great chatting with you. Before we let you go, I did want to ask about your foundation. You're the director of the Avery Strong DIPG Foundation. I just let us know what you guys are doing over there, what we can do to help, how to thank you for coming on here, I'm definitely going to throw a little donation your way. And I think I encourage everybody listening and everybody that learned something with this interview to do the same. So tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So in the summer of 2015, my wife and I, 6-year-old daughter at the time, Avery Huffman, normal, healthy little kindergartner, had no problems in the world. And on June 30th, 2015, we took her in for an ophthalmologist appointment, thinking she had an issue with her eye. We walked out being told she was diagnosed with DIPG, which is a terminal form of brain cancer. The mortality rate is 100%. Essentially, the doctors told us go make a lifetime of memories in the next 6 to 12 months. And after 7.5 months of battling brain cancer, she passed away in February of 2016 at the age of 7. About 3 months later, my wife and I said we couldn't sit idly by and let other families be given the news that nothing can be done. What can we do to allow for something to be done? So we started the Avery Huffman DIPG Foundation in May of 2016. In that time, we raised nearly $1 million. Every cent has gone to research, to different professors, different researchers, different doctors at 35 plus hospitals in the United States, in Europe, and South America. Her tumor was donated to a hospital, and then that's been disseminated to labs across the country. And it's allowing researchers to find a way to treat this form of brain cancer and find a cure, so that when we were given the news nothing can be done, our goal and our passion now is to let doctors someday say to these families, something can be done. And we do it in her honor. We do it in her name. The football community has been tremendous. There's events that go on all over the West Coast, 7-on-7 tournaments, camps, you name it, where I get to share her story. Players are wearing shirts that say Avery Strong, and
Amazing.
Funds are raised going specifically to this research. And it's something that, 24/7 is my job. The Avery Huffman DIPG Foundation is my passion. And that's what I do. Every day during her treatment, she'd get up, she'd make a list of things she wanted to do. I wanted to sulk. She wouldn't let me. So if she could get up with it while she was dealing with cancer, we can get up every day and fight for her.
It's inspiring.
That is amazing
Truly.
that you're making a huge difference. And we're 100% going to make sure that I'm going to do a personal donation. We're going to do something from BSN for you, because it's a great cause, man. And, again, you brought so much knowledge to the show today that I think people can turn around and give back to what's amazing cause, man. So all I can say
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. If you have anything else last minute, we got to go in like a minute here, but any work you're working on right now, or where people can find you, just let us know.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of the spring evaluation period. So these guys are going to be reading about in 3 or 4 years from now. Those guys are going to camps right now, whether it's the Elite 11, whether it's Under Armour camps, whether it's college camps that are coming up. Tomorrow's stars are today's stars in high school. So guys that you want to, get to know in the 2026 draft, hey, tune in right now on 24/7 Sports, read about them as high schoolers and see where they're going to be playing their college football, see what they're going to be like, what we expect them to be like. And, this is the best time of year. I mentioned that the off season is, during the season. Our season ramps up during the spring because you get to see so many guys at events. So stay locked in at 24/7 Sports and learn all about the next generation of football stars.
Beautiful.
24/7 going on all the time. No off season around here. Absolutely love it, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, F.
You're the man. We're gonna bug you
the rest of your day.
We're gonna bug you till you come back on after the draft.
Please do.
So, yeah, awesome, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day, F.
Take care.
All right, that is going to do it for us today. The Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. We'll be back tomorrow and every weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. But until then, we will see you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Coming up after this, Moose and Keith. Enjoy.